Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 315. Sorry, we were trying to share this before we went live with this, and it's always a production. So I want to thank, we got someone coming on tonight, and want to thank our sponsors before we bring our guest on. I want to thank Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Tonight's pairing is going to be partially represented at Tinder Box at Easton's Friday night event. It's going to be an Aganorsa leaf tasting along with WhistlePig samples. So they've got an event, $40. You're going to get, we'll have our guest explain a little bit what Aganorsa is doing. But on the WhistlePig side, you're going to have a version of what we're drinking tonight, the piggyback bourbon. You're going to have a piggyback rye. You're going to have the 10-year and the 12-year, all four samples, and possibly something kind of exclusive as well thrown in there in the mix. So $40. Check out Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. If you guys are local, it's Friday night. There are still some tickets available, so definitely call or come on by and secure those for Friday night at 6 p.m. Also want to thank Altadis USA. Normally they supply the second cigar of the night, but we're going all Aganorsa leaf tonight in spirit of our guest, as well as the event coming up. Is that the flex?
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So thank you, Altadis USA, for the continued support. You can see behind us Monte Cristo, Romeo y Julieta, H. Upman, Aging Room, several others, but fantastic brands from Altadis USA available everywhere. And also want to thank Cigar Company for the gold and silver and the support every week as well. Gold is made by Plasencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa Cigars. So definitely check those out as well. What we're wearing tonight, I've got When the World Hands You Some BS, Light It Up, and Nate has a podcast shirt. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. There's also some hoodies. There's some three-quarter sleeves, some ladies' V-necks, a lot of different options there on buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. You guys can order those, and they ship directly to you. Easy, easy, easy. So soft T-shirts, soft hoodies, everything. So check those out as well. And last but certainly not least, you guys out there, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast, or you can also check out Venmo at Bourbon and BS if you guys want to throw us a contribution for a bottle or whatever you'd like. But we appreciate the continued support. It helps us continue to do this show with less money out of our pocket and hopefully for your enjoyment. So appreciate it. He is being very patient back there, but let's, without further ado, bring on, as it says on there, Corojo Kunal.
How's it going, guys?
What's happening, man?
You see it, man. Just hanging out. What I would have been doing without the podcast anyway, just smoking a cigar.
We're happy you joined us.
Thanks
tonight.
for fitting us into your schedule.
Yeah, really tight schedule.
That's interesting. All right. We are drinking piggyback bourbon from WhistlePig. And you said you're drinking, what was it, Heaven Hill?
Yeah, just that low bottom shelf, nothing anyone cares about. $12 little bottle, something like that.
It's still a solid bottle, though.
It's a great bottle.
Oh, it's a great bottle. This was the OG bottled in bond, 6-year, when it was $12 a bottle, and you could find it at every liquor store just across the river. Yeah, those were the good old days.
Yeah. Well, I remember years ago, a liquor store I used to walk by, they accidentally received a case of Heaven Hill Green Label, which is not available in Ohio. And somehow they got sent one, and I made sure to snag up that 1 liter bottle.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I still have it.
The finds you can get out there is fantastic. So want to thank you for coming on tonight. We've got I think a great cigar featured tonight, and it's the not the box you see. That's actually going to be for part 2, but let me zoom in on you here. That's right, that's the Aganorsa leaf Anniversario Maduro. And are you smoking the Toro there?
This is actually the Grand Toro. I have some Toros, but they are actually of the older label. Before it had its own color. So it's the white label that you find on the Corojo Natural. So it's actually from probably 2.5, 3.5 years ago, at least. So I thought since I'm going to be talking and probably relighting this multiple times, I'll save that for a different night.
No, absolutely.
That's fair.
Absolutely. What's been going on for you guys since you've been on the show last? With
it's a lot warmer out here. I don't need a propane tank like last time. So I'm happy for the beautiful weather, because we get a very short window of that spring where it's really nice and that fall where it's really nice, right? So just happy to be out here. Yeah,
I get it.
Seasons. Yeah, so we've actually got something coming out very soon. It is something that we kind of previewed at the trade show at PCA in Vegas in March this year, since it got moved up instead of in July. And it is going to be the Arsenio Ramos tribute cigar. So it's a brand new cigar. It's not a repackaging of a previous cigar line that we had called Arsenio. It's a much more premium product, more in line with the Anniversario and the price point and the packaging and everything like that. But yeah, that's going to be our newest release. We came out with a junior size JFR Connecticut, which is smoking absolutely great. I got to sample that. One of the first boxes to come out of Nicaragua last week there.
As did
what else? Yeah, you guys were one of the very first. Fabian wasn't kidding when he said that was the first box to make its way into the hands of individuals. So they have not shipped to retailers yet. So
solid little smoke, petite Corona, right?
Yeah, it's like a 46 by 4.5. We've made it in the Corojo and Maduro size or wrappers, but not in the Connecticut for whatever reason. I was the genius that really invented it, if you think about it. So
were you now?
So just a little bit of an inside joke. Everyone takes credit for it, myself included. We were down in Nicaragua, and I must have not been paying attention to the conversation. Surprise, right? And I just kind of, they were asking like, oh, what are some new things you guys think or whatever? And I kind of said, why don't we have a junior JFR Connecticut? And Terrence just kind of looked at me and said, I don't know. And, pointed to a guy. They went and rolled a few, fresh ones for us, and we smoked them there in Nicaragua. He said, all right, we'll come out with it. So I kind of pretend like I invented it, as if no one in the world had ever thought of the idea, right? So
it's an impressive brain you have there.
I try, I try to learn from those around me.
Sure.
That's why I come and see you guys all the time.
What's that?
That's why
I come and see you guys all the time. I'm just trying to learn from the best here.
Your skills of flattery are also impressive.
Thank you.
Also bullshit.
You can't say I'm a brown noser because my nose is brown all the time.
All right,
okay?
Now this is starting off really, really well. I like it. All right.
I haven't had anything to drink yet, too, so the hinges are coming off.
All right, got the training wheels on for the moment. We're gonna take the brakes off here real quick and head downhill. All right, let's talk about the Aganorsa leaf. You can give a summary. I'll put you kind of out there on your own here. But you can give a summary of Aganorsa leaf, but this cigar in particular, I find very interesting because, and please correct me on this if I'm wrong here, but when the Anniversario line came out originally, and we're going back to my knowledge, early 2010s. I'm not sure exactly. I think the first one I smoked was 2014. I think it was before that. It came out in the white box. It was 10 count boxes. It was a project at Aganorsa Leaf before you were with them, but they had basically put a lot into the blend. It was one size per year in the Corojo wrapped Anniversario blend, and since then you did expand to the Maduro, which is unique. I feel like in your portfolio because of the wrapper leaf on there, at least so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
And recently, it's now gone into a third iteration, right? The Connecticut came after that. Is this the timeline there? And now it's available regularly, more or less, in the 3 different blends in a couple different sizes.
No, you're spot on. Yeah, I remember the first Anniversario I smoked was a like a double Perfecto. I don't remember what year was on the box of that one, but I remember seeing like a 2014 release, a 2015 release, and it was in your, as you said, a limited once a year, different size kind of every year. And then we went away from the Miami Casa Fernandez packaging. We released the Corojo Anniversario as a regular production line in 4 sizes. The Maduro was a trade show release for the year that it was released until it became regular production. And same with Connecticut. And the Connecticut is the newest one that came out in 2023 at the midway through the year. And then it was actually most recently awarded #3 cigar of the year by Cigar Snob, and been on the top of many other lists. But yeah, it got as high as #3.
That Connecticut's killing it right now.
It's fantastic, man. I say this all the time, and I know it's becoming very trendy to say this kind of thing, the whole not your grandfather's Connecticut. But I mean, Aganorsa has really never had thin, mild cigars. Even our, 2 or 3 other regular Connecticut cigars that we had in the Validation, the JFR Connecticut, even, they're not mild cigars. They're not, like, I mean, for me anyway, I can't smoke them on an empty stomach because I'm a wuss. But they got a little more body to them. And what I appreciate about the Anniversario version is that it's a very different flavor profile and style than the Validation version of it, which is a little creamier and sweeter. And then the Anniversario's got a little more like kind of a citrus or a zest or whatever you want to call it. But it's 2 different iterations that, portray that Connecticut leaf can be a very interesting wrapper on a cigar. It doesn't have to be boring.
And it's Ecuadorian Connecticut, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, the whole series is great. The packaging, first of all, is fantastic. You guys went through a revamp not too long ago.
Very necessary that we did that. I think it was really critical for us to do that.
Well, I think overall, since I've been in the business for over now 10 years only, but it was Casa Fernandez on the Validation series, but it wasn't really called that. It was just the Casa Fernandez Maduro, the Casa Fernandez Corojo. Maybe it was even like a natural then, but then you started seeing Aganorsa leaf show up on the similar bands, and then it went through a complete overhaul to what we see today on the entire line, basically coming from Aganorsa leaf. This one included. I got rid of it, but if you guys, I've got one behind the camera there, but do you have a new one there? Oh, there you go. You got the
I can't get any focus on the.
It's just because of the color,
the lighting.
Yeah, there. It's kind of like a sheer satiny, but not exactly fabric, right? It's just not kind of like a thick, thick matte type of paper.
Yeah, somewhat see-through, but anyways, takes up a big chunk of it, and then you've got the different colors. So this one's going to be, do you call that black, or is it like a dark gray with silver?
We say black and silver.
Okay, black and silver on here. This is Aganorsa leaf, Nicaragua Anniversario. You've got a secondary band on there, which is purely for the aesthetics. It's not signifying anything. A lot of times you'll see with, I feel like, a certain within a brand, like the blend extension or whatever you'll see. Well, yeah, there you go. On your main, on the Validation series, you've got that secondary band is where you signify Maduro, Habano, Rojo.
Right.
This is purely just a secondary band for the aesthetics, and it looks great.
Yeah, I think we really got the packaging to match the premium level that we always felt the cigar really had behind it. And it was just about, like you said, that revamp line. We didn't want anything to really look like everything else. So everything got its own identity and its own style. The Anniversario definitely got, kind of a big glow up, as the young kids like to, probably not anymore. I don't know. I'm not really in touch with the things that my generation says. Yeah, sure. Hey, it got a really nice glow up in the packaging to really reflect the quality of the cigar.
Mm-hmm. And what I find interesting with this, on the Validation series, or Validation, or however you want to say it, I'm going to say Validation like I always do, the Maduro. What's the wrapper leaf on the Maduro in that series?
On the Maduro and technically it's Validation, but I say Validation all the time too. It is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper, which we use on a few things in our line. And then, we've got some other ones that use something different.
For the longest time with Aganorsa leaf, I felt like when you guys were making your own stuff, when it was Casa Fernandez, even, your Maduro was a San Andreas Mexican wrapper leaf. And
Correct.
That was very, very common. Even when you were making cigars, Aganorsa leaf was making cigars, whether it was at the time coming out of the Miami factory or the Nicaraguan stuff, that was the Maduro. Anything that had Cas Fernandez, a lot of the times I felt it was a Corojo wrapper or it was a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. What I find
pretty
so
much
about the Anniversario Maduro is the way you guys have made this blend, including the wrapper. Do you know what the wrapper is on this?
I do not.
Will you tell us what the breakdown of this blend is? Because I'm impressed with just what you guys did with it.
Yeah, so this is a Nicaraguan Puro, which means that all the tobacco in this cigar is out of Nicaragua. And if it's coming out of Nicaragua, that means we're growing it for ourselves in all of our cigars. But it is a Corojo seed Maduro wrapper, which is proprietary in that there's not really anybody else that has a Nicaraguan shade-grown Corojo Maduro wrapper.
That's why I'm so impressed with it.
So that's two things that normally in the cigar industry contradict each other. Shade grown,
right,
and Maduro.
Correct.
Because typically when you have a shade grown where they literally put the cheesecloths over top of the tobacco plants, that ends up turning into what looks like, your everyday Connecticut wrapper, that really light, mild looking leaf. So to have a shade grown Maduro, it sounds contradictory, but that Maduro process, correct me if I'm wrong, comes from the fermentation.
Comes from the age and the time. And I mean, if you really smoke even San Andreas wrapper by itself, it's actually a very neutral or very sweet wrapper, typically, not always, but that's where those sweeter flavors come from, and why a lot of people like Maduro cigars is because of that natural sweetness. It's just the oils and the sugars, processing, and it takes a long time to do that, obviously, which is what makes, Maduro more expensive and whatever and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's essentially what it is that you're trying to get to, is through the process of aging and fermentation to become Maduro. Maduro just means dark. It doesn't actually signify the strain or varietal of tobacco. When you say something like Mexican San Andreas, now we're kind of specifying where it's coming from and the variety. When you say Connecticut broadleaf or Nicaraguan Habano, right, now we're specifying the kind of tobacco that it is, but Maduro is just the darkness that we're trying to get.
Yeah, that's something every now and then you still come across. I think a lot of cigar smokers nowadays are pretty well educated because they do a lot of research themselves. But you still every now and then will get someone who thinks Maduro is a type of tobacco, like a seed strain.
Right.
But also, and you run into all the time, people think, okay, Maduro, it's dark, it's going to be really heavy, really strong. But like you said, because of that aging process, the reason that Maduro gets that color is the natural oils and sugars in the leaf are coming up to the surface during the fermentation aging process. So it's typically a very oily wrapper, but like you said, there's a little bit of natural sweetness to it. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize that that's common with the Maduro wrapper. They're just expecting this big, kick in the teeth of strength, but they don't realize that there's actually a natural sweetness to that tobacco.
Completely agree. That's where it comes from. If you smoke, again, like I said, just the wrapper, it's going to have a lot of sweetness, but the strength in a cigar typically comes from the Ligero, which is going to be in the filler, right? There's not a lot of companies that make Ligero wrappers. There's a few of them, and they tend to be very bold, very full body, very strong cigars. But typically the strength is from the blend of the inner part of the cigar more than the wrapper itself. And it just so happens that because Maduro has a deeper flavor, a lot of companies find that they can add these thicker, fuller, stronger tobaccos to kind of complement the flavor of what they're looking for with Maduro more than they feel that it matches up with lighter or milder wrappers.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think I like about this blend so much is this blend's not going to be for everyone. I think anytime you go into that kind of, I would say this is medium plus for me, strength wise. I mean, how do you guys classify it as a company? Do you know?
For us, personally, I find it to be kind of like a fuller body cigar, but I would say medium plus strength, depending on some of the sizes or whatnot. But I feel like the thickness and the flavor and everything is very full in the cigar. We tend to have, in my opinion, which is one of the things I've always liked about Aganorsa, was that there's a lot more flavor than nicotine strength in our blends. And I like that aspect of it. And so I always felt like the body on this is on the fuller side, strength more of a medium, maybe a medium plus.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with that. What do you think of this cigar? You've smoked this or no?
I've smoked. I think I've smoked one maybe the last time Canal was here.
Okay.
I think he may have given us one back then.
What are your thoughts on this?
I like the cigar. It's got a lot of flavor. The back end kind of has, and this is not a negative. It's just kind of what I'm tasting. Like on the back end, there's almost like this kind of dry, slight bitterness to it, but not like bitter that's like, oh my gosh, that tastes terrible. No, it's just like the way it dries out the palate a little bit. Just gives the illusion of a bitterness because you're not tasting anything sweet or oily or robust, and so all that's there is just this dry flavor on your palate.
It's almost, I think to me, that's almost like espresso. So I'm getting.
I typically describe in a nutshell the flavor of this cigar to have espresso and dark chocolate as kind of like the main, common, understandable tasting notes. We're not going to get it again, as I always say, we're not getting into the pasta waters and the toasted pencil shaving and brake fluid side of tasting notes. Try to keep it more reasonable.
And I love my pencil shavings too. I mean, I really do.
Only when they're toasted. They got to be toasted.
Yeah. You don't want that fresh ones.
No, that's sawdust. That's totally different, man. Totally different.
Yeah. That's not what I'm getting on this cigar.
Orange Gatorade.
I do get a little bit of pepper to it, like a black pepper to it as well. So, I mean, we're definitely dealing with, I think, some like deep flavors there on that one. I mean, that's what I get from this, which is why I say I don't think it's always with, for everyone necessarily. But this is, I think, on one end of the spectrum. That's why I do like a lot of people do the Connecticut, the sun-grown or whatever. You guys are Corojo because that's what it is. And then you have Maduro, which is also Corojo, but just the way you classify it is that the three of these actually do really get they get a lot of flavor. The whole series of these, I would say your validation series does as well, but this is, I think, a little bit different than most, and probably because of what you said. The shade grown Maduro Corojo wrapper leaf is unique, so you're going to get a different flavor from that when you're smoking this cigar.
Yeah, and we wanted the Anniversario to really be like a level above, right? That's why it is, one of, if not our most premium cigar, thus far until maybe the Arsenio comes out. But, the tobaccos are aged longer. It's more complexity in the blend than you would typically get, right? If you're spending $15+ on a cigar, which, this is around there, right? 14 to 17, depending on the size and the shop and the tax and whatever. But I mean, you're now talking about something that's, more of a treat and more of a luxury than even the luxury of smoking cigars in general is. So we really wanted that to come through in the blend of the cigar. At least that's how I've always felt about it. As what gives this line its identity is that you're going to get a lot of rich flavor. It's got a lot of body to it, a lot of complexity. We're now highlighting all the different tobaccos that we utilize to really come through. You're going to get some of the dryness, like you mentioned, in the back of the throat, but you're also going to get a lot of sweetness from the wrapper, and then a little bit of pepper, because the flavor of that spice and pepper is done in such a way by us that it's not a harshness, right? It's just there, balanced in the background to complement the rest of the flavors in the cigar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For those that are listening live on Facebook or YouTube, you're also right now for the first hour or so, we're going to be on Instagram Live as well. So if anyone's asking you as well where they can find us, but we do have everything going at the same time right now. And you can always find the audio after the fact on all the podcast apps.
As we were describing it, Charlie said a comment that made me think of something we sell at the store, like Aztec chocolate bitters that you would use in a cocktail. There's that little bit of chocolate, but then that dry bitterness that you get for a cocktail.
What is that?
This is like some Mexican stone ground, fancy Whole Foods, Aztec chocolate, whatever. I don't know. This was going to be the pairing because of the flavors that I typically get when I smoke this cigar. So you're spot on, man.
We're all on the same page here tonight. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Look at us. Look at us,
It's like
everyone.
after 6 years, it's like we know what we're doing.
Go team.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Really nice. If you could, for those that are in the Columbus area, which is where we're based out of, on Friday night, May 17th, 6 p.m., we do have an Aganorsa Leaf event going on. It's going to be on the Tinder Box at Easton's neighbor, Fido Irish Pub and Restaurant. It's going to be on their patio. But what are we doing with Aganorsa Leaf for this event?
So we're going to be doing what, in my opinion, is one of the most engaging, informative ways to learn about cigars and tobacco. That is something that's really unique that we do, is that we allow you basically to smoke tobacco the way that they do on the farms in Nicaragua, and how the blending process kind of comes together, and it allows you to experience the things that those guys have to pay attention to and learn about and understand, and what makes them great tobacco and cigar workers, basically, right, on all aspects, right? And so we take two or three, always two, sometimes three, strains of the different tobaccos that we grow. So it's not something where, other companies I've seen where they'll break apart like one specific blend. All right, we're going to hand you the filler, the binder, and the wrapper of one cigar. We're handing you the two primary strains of tobacco that go into every single Aganorsa made cigar, and allow you to experience firsthand, one, what the kind of core backbone of our flavor profile is, but then you also get to see what it is about working with tobacco and trying to understand how blends come together in a way that's really dynamic and, in my opinion, like, just one of the most fun things that you get to do. I got to see it when I flew down to Nicaragua, but I'm not going there all the time. You know what I mean? I'm not important enough to be flying to Nicaragua more than once. So it's just something that
you're there.
Maybe if the flight tickets ever come down from like $1,300 or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe once you get there, it's not expensive, but getting there for whatever reason, it's flying around is really damn pricey right now. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to smoke individual leaves of the different strains of tobacco that go into every single Aganorsa cigar. We get to learn a lot. You get to break it down. You have a lot of fun. And then in addition to that, featuring the pairing that you've got with the WhistlePig is going to go, I think, really nicely, as we discussed at length before, really nicely with this cigar line of the Anniversario.
Yeah, we were debating, and I'm going to put it to you, actually. I think we've got a small group coming to the event, so it's going to be a nice, educational thing, because we also have a rep from WhistlePig going to be going over the two piggybacks, the rye and the bourbon, and then also the 10-year and the 12-year, and those both ryes. So they're going to get samples of all of those things. We might, depending on once we do the Fuma tasting with you, we might have the Maduro and the Corojo out there from the Anniversario and see what people want to smoke.
Sure.
Whatever you think. But
yeah, I got the extras in the mail today, actually.
Perfect.
Showed up.
Perfect.
UPS guy showed up when I was actually home for once. That's always nice.
That's nice.
And I wasn't like in the shower or upstairs, doing the one thing as I was sitting around waiting all day, and then he shows up and leaves right away. No, he's good. He's doing his job. It's just the timing is always random.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I enjoy those events. We did that on a show here with Kunal, didn't we? The Fuma tasting one time.
Yes, we did.
That was a while back, but we did it on the show.
Yeah, because
I think it was my first time on.
Was it?
I think last summer.
I think so.
I think last summer you guys did the same type of event, but had different drinks.
Correct.
And then
we're doing a Buffalo Trace that time.
Yes, and then
we had different cigars.
We did.
And then after that, Kunal came here, and he had the bags of the individual Fumas.
Yeah.
Because we had some questions. I think Ray was asking a lot of questions about that. Like, what's the point of doing something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Because typically with those Fumas, the idea is to get just the base flavor of what that tobacco leaf generates. You're not trying to smoke that all the way down like you do a normal cigar.
Right.
You're just smoking that to get that, this is what that tobacco tastes like. So that way, then when you smoke like a finished production cigar, you're looking for those flavor notes, and you're like, okay, now I know where that flavor comes from in this cigar. And so anytime you smoke a cigar from that brand, especially you guys, since though, you have those 2 leaves that are the core of everything you make. When you then go to smoke anything in your portfolio, you're always looking for those flavors.
Yeah.
And it's also going to draw a lot of recognition in other brands because I won't go into it too much, but we're the largest supplier of tobacco in Nicaragua. I think we grow like 20,000 bales a year, which is a lot. And we sell about 80% of it to other companies like Altadis, Perdomo, Drone, Fuente, Drew Estate, Espinosa, so people have smoked our tobacco in other brands, whether they knew it or not. And this is not like, it's not a complete secret. It's not like, we're, have to come out and advertise it. But a lot of people will do that and they'll smoke, one of the tobaccos and go, that's very familiar. I feel like I've tasted that before. And I say, yeah, because you probably smoked it in a brand without realizing it had our tobacco in there. It doesn't have our name on there. And that's okay. That's by design. It's that way on purpose. But you really get to understand that. And then, to your point, it's like a chef working with his ingredients and like understanding how they all are by themselves. So when he's trying to come out with these recipes and he's workshopping ideas, he needs to know how they work together too. You can't just take, oh, well, I like this and I like that and that's good and slap it all together and come out with a dish, right? That would be, kind of very bizarre, right? So you put Jell-O and ground beef and whatever that thing was on the episode of Friends, right? It's like, yeah, all those things by themselves are good, but that combination is not exactly what we're looking for, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to blending cigars and working with tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ground beef Jell-O does not sound.
No, something straight out of a 1950s microwave cookbook or whatever all those goofy things are.
Sounds terrible. Sounds terrible. Jell-O on the side, not so bad, maybe, but
yeah, exactly.
With the WhistlePigs, what we're sipping on before we go back to the cigar side of things. So Nate, what are we drinking tonight? This is a Piggyback 6-year bourbon, but we actually have a somewhat of a special bottle here.
Yeah, so this was a single barrel pick that was done by Barstool Sports. They have a podcast called Bussin' with the Boys.
Mm-hmm.
That is a couple of former NFL players, basically just sharing stories and talk about experiences and conversation and stuff like that. So they actually did a single barrel pick that was available in the state of Ohio, and it came out last year in 2023. And this was the last bottle that we had on the shelf. So I don't know how much of it is still out there and available. But yeah, it's the same price as the regular Piggyback bourbon, which runs, I think, $4 or $5 more than the Piggyback rye. But yeah, so this one just happens to be a barrel pick instead of a small batch or blended.
Yeah, it's a single barrel bourbon whiskey here. 100 proof, right? You said?
Yep, 100 proof. Both the Piggyback rye and Piggyback bourbon are 6-year products and 100 proof, which is one of the cool things I like in the state of Ohio, at least, is if they do a single barrel pick, if it's the same proof as the regular available item, it gets put under the same SKU number, so it's the same price.
Right.
So, like, if the state does a Buffalo Trace single barrel pick, it's the same price as just regular Buffalo Trace. The only time you get a different price point is if it's barrel proof.
Right. Right.
So, because this is the same proof as just the regular Piggyback 6-year bourbon, it's the exact same price, $49.99.
You know the mash bill on this?
So they don't disclose the exact mash bill. All they say is high corn with a dash of rye.
Mm-hmm. It definitely has high corn flavor.
Yes. I get a lot of that on the finish.
A lot of it on the finish.
Like the first couple sips, I'm like, ooh, corn water.
Yeah. And I haven't said that in a while.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had anything like this in a while. So yeah, this is what's the one that you used to get? Because when you were really big into the lower
mellow corn.
That's it.
No, I've only had mellow corn once.
Well, that was one of them that I'm thinking of. This is different than mellow corn, but it is.
Yeah.
It's got it. It's got it. A little more spice to it, I feel like. but it's yeah, we haven't said corn water on here in a long time.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Ezra 99.
Okay.
And then there was mellow corn. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It is in the finish.
Yeah, there's some of those back in the day where I never had tomfoolery, but that was one. Or I never bought a bottle, but we had that. Or you and Jake, I think, had that on an early episode, and that was one I think because at the time, anything that was done in Ohio using Ohio corn,
it was different.
It was different. It was different.
What do you think of this? Besides the corn stuff, do you like it? Do you not like it?
I think it's solid. It's got some interesting food flavors there. Yeah. Like some herb and spice mixture there with some fruits that are there. It's definitely kind of interesting. I actually had a customer come in today that a while back ago had actually bought this, I think shortly after it first came out last year. And he used to be a chef. And so he's really good at picking out flavors and stuff. And he got this bottle and he started going into all these weird flavor notes. And he's like, yeah. And then mid palate, it transitioned into cremini mushrooms.
Oh, get out of here. But he's, like you were talking about with the Fuma experience. If he's a chef, I mean, he knows what the individual ingredients probably taste like in a lot of dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how their brain works, right? That's how they're always analyzing everything back the way what they're familiar with, which is usually their food products.
So I haven't had it in a long time, but like microwave popcorn. You guys eat that anymore?
No.
I make mine on stovetop.
So of course you do. Do you?
What does that mean?
You do everything like old time.
No, it just I don't know. I never really I used to way back. I say way back, right? But as a kid, like a small kid, we would do that. But I don't know. It was never one of the things that I loved to have all the time. So I just really don't ever.
Were you like a Orville Redenbacher, or are you like more
Orville Red? Dude, I grew up in Indiana, so it was always Orville Redenbacher.
Okay. All right. So remember, like when you left it on there, and the instructions on it, and I don't know, maybe the stovetop. I've not done that forever, and I don't really do microwave popcorn, but I have a popcorn machine. Sean says, "All right, so you guys are all bougie." I'm saying like microwave popcorn, which probably in the '80s was like the bougie thing to do.
Oh
right?
yeah.
But
you make a bag of popcorn, dump it into a metal bowl.
Right.
Maybe you have the paper towel underneath.
Maybe a little garlic salt on there.
No,
you're not a garlic salt guy.
I love garlic, but not garlic salt.
Oh, it's great on popcorn. But
I would always sit there and melt extra butter.
No. See, if I go to the movie theater, I don't put that gross butter topping on there. It's horrible.
It's
horrible.
Butter flavored topping.
Butter flavor oil. No thanks. I'm good.
No, the best way to do that, first of all, on a side note, even though we're already on a side note, is you want to do part of the popcorn, put the butter topping on there, and then fill the rest of it up. You have to shake it in between too, right? So, because otherwise it's just on the top and it's a waste. Yeah. Your hands are a mess on the top, and then it's over. But Richard, garlic salt. When you overcooked a little bit, because it says put it in for whatever 2.5, 3 minutes,
right?
And you starts and it starts popping, or when there are like 2 to 3 seconds or something, it says on there between pops, and you don't want too many kernels, so you count. Like I remember as a kid, you're like it's getting to the end, and it's getting to the end of the timer, and you're like, all right, 1,000, 2 pop, all right, 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 pop, and you're like, all right, you kind of this has a little bit of those pieces in the microwave popcorn that got just
a little overcooked,
burnt,
just a little
just a little burnt.
I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm like, Nate just took a sip in the finish.
I hate you so much.
You hate him because he's right? You hate him because he's right?
Yeah. And then the corn.
Yeah.
Yep, that corn. Yeah.
See?
I'm a bitch.
Yeah. But it was like one of those things, even as a kid, you're like, oh, it's burnt, but it's not like too burnt. So you still have the flavor of the popcorn,
not
but it's like a
charred.
little bitter.
Yeah.
And it was a flavor that I actually enjoyed.
No.
Because you like reach in. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you like now you're towards the probably, the bottom of that metal bowl or whatever you're eating it out of, right? And you kind of see that one. You're like, all right, let's go. And you're like, yeah. So that's probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but Nate is sipping on this with me, and that is the finished flavor.
All right. Wow. That was a very specific journey we just went on.
Sometimes that connection, your brain just goes bang right to that thing that you haven't thought about in whatever years, decades, whatever it is. I haven't personally eaten slightly burnt microwave popcorn in a very long time. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know that
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I know I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Almost to like it's like burnt. I don't know. Like then like Charlie says, burnt kernels. Like, I mean, the one like you bite into like you like watching the movie and you like have the kernel and like cracks your teeth. But then there's the other ones that are like just almost there,
like a little crispy,
and you can actually eat it. Yeah, those were good ones too. Well, that's where
Sean. If you look at Sean was super bougie. He would actually brown butter, and then
come on, that's too much effort, man. For popcorn, the whole point is to just shovel it into your face as much as you can.
Yeah, but you want it to taste good too.
I love this comment here. Let's see if I can put it up here.
That's why I spent $15 on a bucket of it at the movie theater, right?
Right. I love this. There you go. Wait, we went through the whole popcorn story to say the whiskey has a slightly overcooked popcorn flavor. You're goddamn right we did. Sorry we weren't talking in like, it's like,
fantastic voyage.
Yeah. Hey, we appreciate you guys listening tonight. How does this pair with that Heaven Hill that no one can get anymore?
You could probably get it from a few people, probably just not for the amount of money that it's worth.
Right. Yeah,
no, it's not a like the Heaven Hill. It was always just a solid, very textbook style whiskey, right? It wasn't anything that was overly complicated or fancy or whatever, and it's got those classic traditional bourbon flavors. You can taste that rye, that barrel, a little bit of sweetness, and it's not overwhelmingly one thing, and it's not super aggressive either. So I kind of wanted to find something, one that was a 60 or 100 proof, just because, and then also didn't want anything that was going to be taking away from the cigar. Sometimes pairings are about making your cigar better or making your whiskey better, or you maybe want to pay attention to one thing versus the other. Tonight, I was just kind of in the mood to really highlight and not detract from the cigar, because I don't smoke these all the time. And when I do, I really love them. And I always want to not have them as a background thing, because I just think there's so much going on in them. And every time I light one up, it just impresses me. So yeah, I just wanted something that was going to complement it without changing a whole lot about it.
No, I get it. What about you, Nate? How's this pairing for you before we get into the obviously the actual ratings?
I think going whiskey to cigars actually might be a little bit better on this one.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because I think going cigar to whiskey, there's something about the flavor of the whiskey that kind of changes a little bit.
In what way?
Give me a second. I think that corn hits way sooner on the palate.
Yeah.
Going cigar to whiskey, that corn, that high corn mash bill, as they say, really kicks in. I would guess, so obviously this is going to you have to have something malted. So it's usually malted barley. My guess is this is somewhere low, like that 4 to 8% malted barley in the mash. And they say a dash of rye. I'd say that's less than 10% of the mash bill. I mean, so this can easily be at least an 80% corn mash, even though they don't specify the percentage.
At least of their normal products, their everyday products, to my knowledge, I'm not as well versed, and this is something that I'm hoping to learn actually on Friday night with Braden from WhistlePig. They're a rye company. I mean, this is what they put out as rye whiskeys. So for this one to come out as a bourbon as their first effort, and again, we're doing a single barrel here, but I mean, to sample that on Friday, I'm looking forward to, just because I want to see how these things line up.
And we've had the piggyback rye on here.
Yes.
We've had the 12-year. Pretty sure we've had the 10-year.
We had the 15-year.
Oh, we did have. That's been a while.
Long time ago.
Yeah, we've never done the 18 or a Boss Hog.
No. Our Patreon
it's not as robust
allow for
to support a Boss Hog.
No, not.
And at Carfagna's right now, we actually have 2 WhistlePig state picks, OHLQ state picks, that were actually done by staff at Carfagna's.
Yeah.
And one is the 12-year that is a blend of 3 different cask finishes. The primary cask finish that makes up 50% of the blend is finished in Sauterne casks.
Interesting.
Which is an Italian dessert wine.
Dessert wine. Yep.
And they wanted to have that kind of be the focus because it's an Italian family. It's an Italian market.
I like that. Yeah.
So it's Sauterne, port finish, and then I think sherry finish as well. So I think it's 50, 30, 20 in the blend of the finishes, but the Sauterne cask is the focal point on that blend.
Okay. Yeah, this who does your labels?
I think we have them made by Action Label, but as far as designing them, they were designed by someone that we started working with as like a graphic designer kind of person. So it wasn't anyone in-house.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, that was another thing you guys really upped, and I know you guys used to work with Action Label, and I think Action Label, from what I've seen, has also really upped their game over the years, because that's who we used based on recommendation for BS Cigar Company, based on a recommendation from you guys when we were working with when it was Casa Fernandez, right? So they've really, I feel like, upped their game in a lot of their embossment and everything else, because this is just a gorgeous label.
It really is, and even it wraps around, and I like some of the subtle things, and you'll see it on the validation label as well. The kind of like wavy wrap around as it goes around the back. It's not really stagnant, and then each of those little medallions kind of has their own sort of thing in there about something involved with tobacco in Nicaragua, either Esteli, Nicaragua, Jalapa. So I think that a lot of the iconography, the pretty pictures that they used, really was a really nice design.
No, it's fantastic. Let's get to the ratings here, I guess. Let me put up that banner here. All right, so Kunal, what of your line, I guess, what's your go-to if you were to kind of not even go which specific blend, but I mean, are you more of for those who don't know you, are you more of like the Connecticut blends, the Corojo blends, Habano blends, or Maduro, whether it be a San Andreas or with this one here? What's kind of your everyday kind of go-to if you have one?
Typically, it's Corojo. The natural Corojo is what I fell in love with early on when I was exploring things beyond my initial stage of trying to smoke everything else $5 and under, so that I would stop accidentally inhaling them, because I was trying to learn. So once I got beyond that and I started going into I want to go into more medium body cigars as opposed to only mild cigars, it was the Corojo that I fell in love with from a lot of different blends that Aganorsa made, which is what drew me to looking up Aganorsa and exploring the line. So I would find things like the Warped Grand Reserve, and La Hacienda lines, and I'd look them up. Oh, it's Aganorsa made in its Corojo wrapper. Found the Elway Wednesday. Currently that blend has now been discontinued as they shifted production, but the Elway Wednesday from Foundation was Aganorsa made Corojo. I found the Illusion original documents. Oh, bang. By the way, so it was a lot of those blends that kind of drew me to Aganorsa overall, and it's what I look for in a lot of other things, and typically that's what I gravitate towards. So more than any of the other ones, I typically smoke more of our Corojo wrapper cigars than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's what you guys are known for. More than
if Tyler's watching, he made sure he wanted me to tell you guys this, since I never do a good enough job of it, but he really wanted me to inform everybody that Aganorsa grows Corojo tobacco. Apparently that was something that I've never really informed anybody of. So yeah, Tyler Jones specifically wanted me to make sure I got that information out.
Is this being sarcastic?
A little bit, yeah.
I'll say, I'm pretty sure in the past you've hammered that one.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, your Corojo wrapper leaf is, I think almost iconic at this point in the cigar world. So
well, and I think Tyler was the first person after me to comment on tonight's feed, and he just goes out there, Corojo Canal.
Well, that's his name on his professional page. So yeah, just the alliteration, it just worked out. I'm not that clever, but it worked out. So I'm happy to have it. That's what we're known for, right? There's really, I would say, two major growers of Corojo tobacco. We're the one in Nicaragua, and that's what people come to us for. If they like that flavor, that's what we do, in my opinion, better than everybody else, and what stands apart and is what is different than what everybody else is doing. And so if you're going to go to us to make a cigar, you would probably want it to have our, kind of signature flavor, and that is from the Corojo tobacco that we really specialize in. Well, it's amazing to me also, before we get into the ratings here, what's amazing to me with you guys and some other growers, I would say you guys, Plasencia, AJ Fernandez, to name three, I think, big names on the growing side. There's others, right? The Oliva family, obviously, but it's amazing how many cigars are made with your tobacco that have, on paper, Corojo wrapper, whatever it is, binder, and then your Nicaraguan filler. How different these can be. It's very interesting to me when if on the flip side of that, where you were smoking stuff, finding out that it was Aganorsa leaf tobacco, where other people could be smoking, and you're like, this is really similar, and they find out it's Aganorsa leaf. Or if you look at it and it's Aganorsa leaf before smoking it, and you're like, I've already smoked an Aganorsa leaf built cigar with a Corojo wrapper with Nicaraguan filler and binder. Like, I don't need to buy another one. On the contrary, I feel like there are some similarities to it. AJ is the same way. AJ Fernandez, like, if you have a medium body Nicaraguan Puro from AJ Fernandez, and like there was a stint of them, I think, like in a from different companies, and I'm like, oh, that tastes like a medium body Nicaraguan Puro from AJ Fernandez. Even you guys, Plasencia, some other ones, it's amazing how similar yet very different they can be, I feel like, even though on paper they're the same.
Yeah. Well,
that comes with. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's one of those things where you can have the same strains of tobacco or leaves of tobacco in a cigar, but if you're doing different fermentation processes or different fermentation times, different aging times, that's where you can get some of those little differences in a blend. Even though on paper they all look the same,
right? Usually
on paper they're not sitting there saying, how many days it was fermented and how many years it was necessarily aging in the humidor, either before it was made or after it was made. But those little things can, have a huge impact on the finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. Every little variable can be tweaked to change the outcome, which is, I think, one of the most incredible things about cigars and wine and whiskey, coffee. It's like I think the few things that literally every single variable that you adjust or change has a noticeable impact on the end result. And, to your point, what makes a lot of our stuff on paper the same, right? Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan filler, binder. And again, I think a lot of people would have that kind of thought. Well, if they're all the same on paper, why are they even different? But they are noticeably different, and that a lot of times comes with the blender in question and kind of what their palate is and what they're going for the identity of their cigars, right? Like Dion with Illusion, right? He has a certain style to his cigars, and the reason for that is because of Dion, right? Or Kyle Gellis at Warp Cigars, Rainier at HVC, right? They all want different outcomes. So even though they're working with they're not identical, but let's say the same ingredients. If you're like, you get a room of 4 chefs together and hand them all the exact same basket of ingredients, don't tell them anything. They're going to come up with something different.
Right.
That's how cigars work as well. And it just so happens that we also have a lot of tobacco that, even though the strains are similar, there's a huge variance in between, and you can do a lot of different stuff with it to come out with somewhat familiar, but also very unique and having its own identity. And we did the same thing with our own cigars, right? Again, Anniversario is one line. It has a style. Signature has a certain style. Validation series has a certain style, even though on paper they may be very similar.
Makes sense. And I got to be honest with you guys. We'll keep it there. I've had on paper the same blend, if you will, because it's not down to the specifics of it. But as far as, this is the Corojo. This is a Corojo wrapper leaf from Aganorsa leaf. They make the cigar, Nicaraguan filler and binder, and that's all that you see on paper. I've had some from you guys that I absolutely love. I've had some under different brands, yours, and then some that were made for other companies that I could see some very big similarities to. And I've had some that I didn't care for at all. And I think that's where in the cigar industry with, sometimes with the bourbon, but with you guys specifically, the way that I see that happening is that you guys are manufacturing the cigar, but you're working with guys like Dion, Kyle. I had the opportunity to work with you guys, with Brian as well, on a blend. And it was very interesting because even on our trip to the Miami factory at the time, we were handed a cigar that when I looked it up, it was the same blend, you know what I mean, on paper. And I didn't care for it. And it's just amazing how different, because you have, but it was a popular cigar. Don't get me wrong. It was considered a good cigar, but I mean, we had been smoking similar blends all day long. And then we went back to the hotel and smoked this one. And I was like, I looked at Brian and I'm like, what do you think of this? And he kind of looked at me. He's like, I don't really like it. I was like, I don't either. and so it was just interesting because when you have the third party come in and work with your staff, work with your blenders, work with your tobacco, that third party, the other head in the mix right there can make a world of difference, in my opinion. And it was really interesting to see because I was surprised how much I didn't like that cigar.
Right. I know which one you're talking about too, because you've told me about it. But I'll kind of, yeah. So a lot of that I'll even mention because I didn't say a whole lot about it and I didn't want to go into it too much, and I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. But that's who Arsenio Ramos was for us. So he was in charge of tobacco production, fermentation, and essentially sorting in Cuba for decades. And basically, if you think about how the Cuban system is, it's all their, every field and that they own, and it's all one central government run conglomerate, whatever, right? But they have all these brands. So you have an H. Upman, and you have a Romeo and Juliet, and a Monte Cristo, and a Partagas, and Cohiba. Like, what makes them all different? If they're all, there's even less information about Cuban tobacco. Right. It all just says Cuban tobacco, right? But he would know, hey, he was not a blender, but he understood tobacco extremely well. And so he would get that tobacco and say, all right, well, this needs to go to this line to give it its identity. And this tobacco goes to that line, and this tobacco goes to that brand. And he was able to do the same thing for us. And basically this is kind of maybe I might be misstating this a little bit, but kind of the idea was like, if Dion came around and said, hey, I want my cigars to have X, Y, and Z type of style, Arsenio would say, okay, well, I know the tobacco you need is from X, Y, and Z farm or A, B, and C farm. And if, Kyle comes in and says, I want it to taste like this, he would say, all right, well, you need tobaccos from, this farm and that farm to create that cigar. So he was not a blender in doing that, but he was enabling and allowing people with insight and information to be able to create the identities that they wanted to have in their cigars with their style.
No, it's amazing that there's that kind of a skill set there. Obviously, takes a lot of practice and knowledge there, but I mean, it's
Decades.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was worth bringing up because sometimes
people, you're right.
They won't try things because like, oh, I've had that before. I've done that before. And it's like, you haven't done it this way. You haven't had this experience. And you know, it's funny too. Sometimes when people like something and they were to read like, oh, this is an Aganorsa leaf, they read the breakdown, like, I'm not going to smoke that. I've already had something from there. It's like, but you enjoyed the first one. If I'm telling you that this is similar but different, why wouldn't you buy it? Why wouldn't you?
It's like it's like you like a band, right? Okay, I've listened to this band. Well, why do they keep coming out with different albums? Because they have more things in their brain or whatever that they want to create. It's the same thing with cigars, man. They got, you know, you don't just listen to one song and say, all right, I know what the whole band sounds like. It's the same thing with our stuff too.
No, there's another parallel to that too, is when a band puts out something you really liked it, and then they listen to another album, and then it's like there's two ways it goes. One is like, yeah, I mean, it's just more of the same. I don't know, I'm kind of over it. Or it's like, it's not like the last album. I don't really like it. You're like, what do you want?
Like, yeah. Do you want nothing but repetition of the same thing, or do you want them to change and develop and grow?
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, it's overplayed.
They sold out.
Yeah,
they sold out to make themselves more commercial.
Yeah. No, their first album was done like in a garage somewhere. This one was done in a studio. All right, rating time.
With a professional. Yeah. With a professional that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Whiskey, cigar, and the pairing. Kunal, we'll start with you with the cigar, and you kind of mentioned how it pairs with that Heaven Hill there. But as far as the cigar specifically, that's kind of where I was going with this. You went to the Corojo side of it normally, you said. So with this one being the Anniversario Maduro, what's your thought on this exactly, and how would you rate it?
So, yeah, it's starting to get a little bit dusk. And before I go turn on the patio light and attract every bug in a 10-mile radius to my patio, which is what happens and then they get in the house. The Anniversario line to me, like I said, it's one that from the very first one I ever smoked to every single time I light one up, no matter what, it always impresses me. And it always it makes me just kind of sit back and go, wow, literally every single time. So for me, the cigar, I'll call it a 95 because there's very few things in my mind that I really put on the same level as far as, again, it's all personal, right? Just it hits my palate a certain way. It impresses me every single time. I think the price point for the quality of it is also one thing that just really, I don't understand it. I don't know how we keep, I know how, but I also don't really understand how we're able to make this kind of a cigar for significantly less money than, in my opinion, similar level and quality cigars are with a lot of other brands that are typically significantly more expensive to get this caliber of a cigar. So for me, I'm going to call this cigar a 95. It's one of my absolute favorite Maduros. I can smoke it anytime. It's got a rich flavor to it that's not overwhelming. It's not super strong. And because it's a Corojo Maduro opposed to something that's used by, a lot of other companies and brands, which, again, make awesome and excellent cigars. But that provides a very unique quality to this very specific cigar, in my opinion.
Nice. Nate, how about you? Let's start with the whiskey for you, and then the cigar itself, and then the pairing.
Okay. So if anyone who knows Dave Portnoy that does Barstool Sports,
Dream Theater,
he loves
that's Mike Portnoy. Sorry,
he loves rating pizzas in different places.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he always has guests.
Mm-hmm.
So the WhistlePig.
Mute him real quick.
Mute him.
Mute him for just a moment here.
So on the that didn't really do much. On the whiskey, I'm going to give the whiskey a 7.1.
7.1, very specific.
No, I mean the corn water. I like initially, because I intentionally took a couple sips of this before I lit up the cigar, and I think we had a couple sips before we went live. And initially, I was like, okay, that tastes pretty good. And then that finish hits, and I'm like, oh, corn water. Like, okay, it's been a while since I've had that, but there are some that kind of have that butterscotch to it that this kind of reminds me of. And not my favorite WhistlePig product. Not my least favorite either.
This is their entry level.
Yeah, it's the only bourbon they do, and it's $50. All the piggyback rye is $45 in Ohio, and then all the other ryes are $80, $120, up to $600.
Yeah.
So there's some pricey bottles. I think one of the reasons the flavor profile on this comes across a little bit lighter is it's aged in level 3 char. So it's not as heavily charred of a barrel as a lot of your popular Kentucky bourbons are, which are usually utilizing level 4 or alligator char.
Yeah.
So there's less depth to the char in the barrel. So when that whiskey does penetrate deeper into the staves, you're just kind of getting more of that bright oak.
Yeah.
And that corn, because it really doesn't change that much of the mash when it's just getting into the uncharred part. So I think doing the level 3, I think it makes it approachable, but it's not that really deep, rich flavor that a lot of bourbon drinkers, I think, are pursuing.
Got it. Yeah, I get it.
The cigar, I'm going to give the cigar an 8.5.
Nice.
Solid smoke, had great construction, good amount of smoke coming off of it. I think it's a pretty one-dimensional cigar. There's not a whole lot of change start to finish. It's got good flavor. Part of me, and this is just me who I am, like part of me wishes the flavor that was there was just a little bit richer, a little bit heavier. But that's because I typically like fuller body, Maduro, something really rich. And I think this is something that's like, okay, if we make it too rich of a cigar, then some of those nuances of the blend will get hidden. So I think by, keeping this more that medium plus, medium full, it allows some of the complexity of the flavor profile to stand out a little bit more. As far as the pairing, I don't like them together. I don't. It's
gonna go great on Friday.
Well, you guys aren't gonna be drinking this exact same bottle.
No. This is one of 4 samples.
Well, yeah, the piggyback bourbon is gonna be one. This is a single barrel pick though, so it's a little different than your mass produced small batch. I think the pairing's a 6.
Okay. For me, the whiskey, I'm kind of with you. It's funny. We're doing this tonight. We did the piggyback rye on the show a while back. So a readily available one that is, so the 10-year, I think in Ohio is coming in at $79.95 or whatever, $80. The 12 years coming in now at $149 when I looked it up, if I'm not mistaken.
It go up that much?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we wanted to go with one that is your everyday available $50 average price point nowadays bottle here. And, not knowing what to expect necessarily. I think I've tried the non-single barrel you got here, but you had it available. Let's do it, right? Yeah. I'm with you on this. And again, I'm not trying to deter anyone from trying this or trying the WhistlePig portfolio. WhistlePig, again, being a known for their rye whiskeys, it's like I was saying about like a Maduro cigar or fuller bodied or whatever. It's not for everybody, right? So, but it's worth trying, especially at $50, especially if you see it at a bar. I'll give it a 7.5. And I say this for those that might be listening that are coming on Friday night to the Tinder Box event. Don't be turned off by it before trying it, because again, we were like at an event like that, it's great because you can try 4 different ones, right? This bourbon is I would say not their best offering, but it's not bad either. This is a solid 7.5. It's not one that I'm always going to have on my bar, but I definitely enjoy drinking it if that goes. Because again, yes, that long journey that people were kind of joking about with, the burnt popcorn thing, it's a unique flavor.
Yes.
It's not necessarily one that I'm always going to seek out, but if it's available, I would actually absolutely enjoy drinking this bottle. So that's where the 7.5 comes in. The cigar, I'm listening to what Nate was saying about the cigar. So for me, you wanting more, like a little bit more richness and everything like that. That's what I don't know. And Kunal, I don't know if this is kind of what you're going for or the company's going for with this blend. Is we have to remember that a lot of Maduro cigars that are on the market today are either Connecticut broadleaf or San Andres Mexican wrapper leaf, and they're blended accordingly. When you say it out loud, this is a shade-grown Corojo Maduro, I think you're going to get a uniqueness. And also, one of the things I like about Aganorsa leaf, especially the branded Aganorsa leaf cigars that you guys manufacture, is that it is a subtle blend typically. This is something that you're not going for a punch you, as far as flavor, or punching the back of the, as far as strength. You're going for subtlety. So you're able to taste a lot of things we talked about tonight. So that's where I'm going to give the cigar. I'll give it a 8.75. I think it's a great cigar. It's not necessarily for everybody, but if you're looking for your classic current day market Maduro cigar with the broadleaf or the San Andres Mexican with some Nicaraguan, you're not going to get it out of this. That's what I'll say. You're going to get something different. This is a punched up version of their Corojo, their Nicaraguan Puros. I mean, this is something that I like the uniqueness, and that's where I say 8.75.
Yeah, we're trying to lean into what makes it unique, right? Again, we don't want it to be like everything else that even we make. Otherwise, it would have used something else, right? So that's kind of the idea. You're spot on.
Yeah. So the pairing, I'm with Nate on the pairing on this one. I'm looking forward to like Friday nights, that kind of event where you can try some different stuff. I'm curious to see how this cigar travels that line of 4 different WhistlePig whiskeys. I really am. This one will be interesting I don't know if Braden's gonna. I think it's Braden from WhistlePig. I don't know if he's gonna start with this one. I assume he'll start with this one or the Piggyback Rye and kind of go up from there. But I think it'll be a nice kind of like journey as we're smoking this. We'll do the Fuma part first, but smoking this and then kind of traveling that 4 sample one, and also taking some puffs on the cigar in between those samples to see how it pairs with the different ones.
I'd imagine he'd start with the bourbon just because that high corn mash bill, it's going to be a lot sweeter than the rye.
Yeah.
And then once you go to the rye, then you're staying with rye the rest of the journey.
That's those other 3 are very different as well. So
yes.
That being said, let's round out here part 1. Thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Stay tuned. We're going to go into part 2, and we'll see where the conversation goes beyond the BS. But appreciate Corojo Kunal. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Look forward to having you on Friday as well here in Columbus, Ohio. Cheers.
It's going to be a good night.
Ray Cheshire corrected me. Puro is not Puro, it's Puro.
Puro.
In America, it's Puro.
Puro.
It's pure with an O.
Yeah, here in the Midwest of America, it's
America.
It's pure. And it's a Puro.
Pure.
It's a goddamn Puro. This is wind chimes.
Wind chime right next to his head.
Of course there is. And it's a ridiculous freaking pineapple one because the girlfriend is obsessed with pineapples. I don't know. It's a SpongeBob thing.
Sounds lovely.
Sean, no.
Easy.
No.
It's not. It's not that kind of pineapple.
Oh boy.
I know exactly where he's going with it.
Neighbors are always knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm. It's not upside down. It's the proper orientation. Calm down.
All right. Good to have Sean Wilkinson in the garage.
Oh, how we've missed Sean.
Yes. Yes. Sean, that mic is live if you want to chime in at any point. It's on the table there.
Yeah.
You can kind of pull it over by you if you want. It's on this table here.
I just got a text message. Don't let her walk around the grocery store with an upside down pineapple.
All right.
That's been known to happen at the Dublin Kroger.
Oh boy. So you got enough mic line there. Oh, that's
Oh, man.
right.
No, we could. I mean, it's muted, so if you want to swap out the cables, you can. Yep.
Just wrapped up one there.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens in Dublin, eh? Which Kroger? What Haven Road?
Yeah, it's funny. Not to get down that rabbit hole there, but we're we go on these all inclusive and we join the Facebook group. I think I told you this, Nate, maybe, but there'll be a post on some of these Facebook groups. It's like, hey, we're going to be down at the resort, whatever, May blah 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 to May this. Like anyone of the lifestyle, and I'm just like, I don't respond, but
Yeah,
I'm like,
of course,
if that's your thing, man, like.
Hey, as long as everyone is consenting adults and no one's hurt, then who gives a shit?
Yeah, and you're not doing it in the main pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah, there are resorts for that too, from what I understand. Those are not the resorts that we go to. Not at all. Yeah, a lot of chlorine.
We got a couple minutes before we swap over to part 2.
Yeah, we're ready whenever.
All right, let me go see. Let me get some AAA batteries to put in this light. Might give me a little bit extra over here.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, come on, sweetie. She does not want to get up. She said, "Dad, I'm really cozy and sleepy. Why are you moving?
That's right.
Why are you moving?" Okay. Ugh. I'm gonna have to also take down that wind chime because I know that's got to be driving you nuts.
We'll mute you here for a second. You let us know when you're back on here. I'll take him. I'm just gonna take him. Oh, here you go.
Nope, there goes the wind chime.
We'll go solo layout until he comes back. We'll have to keep an eye out for him down here. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. And Justin Turner out here. I'm gonna put this up on the screen. So one of our loyal listeners. Good evening, all. Happy Wednesday, back from 12-day honeymoon. Liver currently in healing mode. Well, congratulations, Justin, out there. That's awesome, man. I love the profile pic too. If you see that on there. But yeah, congratulations, Justin. I don't know if you saw it out there that Chris and I recently got engaged, and we are planning our wedding for next summer at another all-inclusive, family-friendly, not the one we were just talking about. And right now, if you guys are listening live, we are kind of in between part 1, part 2, and we'll be starting as soon as we get Kunal back on here. Love being corrected by Ray out there. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Puro. Hey, he's back.
Puro.
Puro. Let's say it. I mean,
Puro.
yeah.
It's a Puro.
Yeah. Been saying it this long for this many years.
Just like the La validation.
Right.
Validation.
That's right.
Validation.
Justin, thank you very much. I will let Kristen know. She had picked out the ring. She didn't know that I had secured said ring, but she was surprised. So
I don't know if that's any better.
It's good enough, man. It's all good. We're in the
It's
garage.
the thermos. Yeah, it's a thermocell that keeps the mosquitoes away.
Nice.
Actually, does a pretty good job. It doesn't smell like citronella or whatever those damn things are that don't do anything anyway.
Right.
Tiki torches and all that.
That's what bug spray's for.
Are you guys finished up on your Anniversario, or should
I've got
a quarter left at least.
Yeah, I've probably got another half-inch worth of smokability.
Yeah, these things they take a while.
I didn't say it in the end of part one there, but Nate, you said that it's not really transitioning at all. It's like kind of a one note thing. I think it's kind of, and maybe it's with the whiskey or whatever, but I feel like this blend, at least in the Toro size, I don't think I've smoked it in the Grand Toro size. This one, it starts mellowing out. It's not like when I first smoke, like the first third or whatever, it's a little punchy. And I feel like it kind of the flavor doesn't go crazy changing on me, but it's kind of nice. It's a little more subtle as I smoke through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is even the other cigars that we have with this wrapper. We make the Guardian of the Farm Night Watch, and we also make the Signature Selection Maduro and the Lunatic Perfectos. Are all Nicaraguan shade-grown Corojo Maduro wrappers. The Lunatic Perfectos are definitely the fullest, boldest of all of those. And it's because it's a Lunatic, right? So the Lunatic line is a lot more fuller body and bolder by design. And the Signature Selection uses Medio Tiempo, so it's a very thick, very dense cigar.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Gives it a little more oomph to it too, I think.
Yeah, it's got a lot more body behind it. So
yeah,
that's what I personally love about the Anniversario, is that it's not quite that strong of a cigar. So I can smoke it even after, even with after breakfast with espresso. It's great, afternoon, and it doesn't destroy your palate. A lot of Maduros are so heavy that's gonna be like your final cigar, or all day you just got to smoke multiple heavy Maduros, and then that kind of blitzes your palate and gives you a lot of that fatigue anyway. So
yeah. All right, you guys want to do part two? I can hear Tony going nuts inside.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 315, part two, Beyond the BS, and we still have Corojo Kunal on the show here from Aganorsa Leaf. Thank you for joining us, staying with us. Talking to you, Kunal.
Okay, well,
Thank you for.
Yeah, I guess I should. I should be interactive and respond. I guess I'm not just watching the podcast, right? No. Thanks for having me.
Here, I'll take you off the screen. You can just watch. That's fine.
Yeah. There we go. No. Thanks for having me. I love being able to do this. Thanks for keeping me in mind, reaching out to me, and setting this up.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it all week, man.
Yeah. Great. Well, happy to have you. Surprised to have you back in the shop, actually in the area with Fabian also, which we definitely need to line him up on a show here with you and him. That would be a good one. Even get you, Fabian and Terrence on here. That would be
that might be a debacle.
It'd be a lively episode, which I'd love to see. So
I think that'd be a lot of fun too. We should that's a good idea. We should definitely try to line that up.
It would be fun. Still smoking the Aganorsa Leaf Anniversario Maduro. Talked about that in part one. We're still sipping on here in the garage the WhistlePig Piggyback Bourbon. It's a single barrel that Nate picked up here, and it's from Bussin' with the Boys, right? Which is a Barstool Sports podcast, and they did a barrel pick on this. 6 years on the single barrel, and yeah, listen to part one for any of our all the information about Aganorsa Leaf, about this whiskey we're sipping on.
Oh, I didn't even read like any of the stuff on the website or the back label, and it's entertaining.
Good. Well, check it out, I guess, if you'd like here. Yeah, Bussin' with the Boys barrel pick. So I'm sure Barstool Sports has some stuff on it, right? Is that where you found it?
No, I found it on WhistlePig's official website.
Okay. So check that out, WhistlePig, on their website. part two, we kind of we talk here about different stuff, and kind of talking with Kunal before briefly, trying to figure out what we want to talk about tonight. And there's not a specific life topic tonight, but we have this event coming up, and it's interesting throwing events in this industry. So with us, every year we do a big cigar event called Smoking 10 event, and we pretty much we sold out this last year. We pretty much sell out pretty much every year, and we've done it now 11 times. And we have this event coming up, and with the big event, I when we put tickets on sale, there was a change the way we did it, right? And at first, for a long time, we did a VIP package, which was limited, and then a general admission package, which was also limited, but it was not as involved as the VIP, not as long in the tent, not as big of an event package. When we went to 2 years ago now, we went to one ticket of like price, and it's still limited access overall, but there's a bigger pool of tickets because you don't have to hurry. And before, it was like within the first 7 to 10 days, 150 tickets sold out because of the VIP, with another 150 available for the general admission, which would then kind of trickle in over a period of a month or two.
Yeah.
Now it's changed where people know that they don't have to hurry to get the VIP tickets, and it's gotten to the point where we sold out, but after a month of selling tickets, me personally at least, I start worrying if people are even interested in going, because they're not securing their spot. It's like there's no sense of urgency. And then like with this event coming up on Friday, it's like there's no sense of urgency. There's a lot of, yeah, I might come, I might do it, I'll let you know, that kind of thing. And we were talking before we went live on here, and I don't get it. I just don't. I don't get it.
Frustrating.
It's frustrating, especially when you go to the effort of like making plans, whether it's with your friends, whatever it is. But like when it comes to like that, like with this specifically, and we can kind of branch off this in the conversation, but it's like when someone says, it's like, I'm still thinking about it. It's like, well, do you have something else going on? Like what's, and like I don't want to, I'm not like being desperate here. It's like, if people don't want to come to an event, that's fine. If maybe it's the lineup, maybe, with this one, I know there's a couple of our customers that, well, I don't really drink. So if it was like cigars and food, I'd be there. But the fact that it's the cigar experience along with a cigar and then a whiskey sampling, I get it. You don't want to pay an amount it's not your type of an event. I get that.
Oh yeah.
But then I feel as though, and actually the last time that we did an event with you, Kunal, is like we did this like Buffalo Trace single barrel versus the Buffalo Trace. I'm starting to, and I don't know, and this is just, again, for an example, but like last year when we were doing this, it was like, okay, Buffalo Trace has lost its appeal. So no one really fucking cares about a Buffalo Trace sampling unless you're at the distillery. And even then, like people aren't into it anymore. It's like, I guess what I don't get is that if you want to do something, then do it. Like when it comes to that, if you have something else going on, family obligations, or you don't want to do it, then that's fine too. But I'm not sure why I feel like these days we're really at the point where when I have interactions with people and they're saying how, and these are friends. Like I have a friend that I've known for 20 some years. And so, for example, he was supposed to possibly go on vacation with Kristen and I and Spencer and Jennifer on this last vacation. This was something we talked about like a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we'll definitely look at it. We'll definitely look at it. It was kind of him hawing around. Yeah, we might do it. I'm not sure. We'll look at it, all this stuff. And literally he and I, we only see each other, even though he lives a mile away or 2 miles away. It's just life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And I just, I stopped asking, you know what I mean? I'm like, he knows about it. I'm not going to keep like, hey, did you get this? We're doing this. And I kid you not, we got there on Monday. Chris and I got there on Monday. I proposed to Kristen on Tuesday morning. He texted me on Tuesday night and said, "Hey, are you at Easton?" And I responded back with a picture of my swim out pool at night. And I said, "Nope." And he's like, "Shit." And he's like, "I totally lost track of what even month it is." And then he texts me back. He's like, his significant other is Audrey. He's like, "Well, shit, now Audrey's mad at me saying that we should have gone to this thing." And that was where I kind of aligned that with like something as small as like a Friday night event or plans, where it's like when you hear from people and they're just like, "Yeah, no, I'm doing okay. You know, work's really hard. And like, you know, just don't really do much of anything. You know, I try to
Want to get away
to do stuff and, you know, they just never really do." And well, what do you do on your free time? Nothing. I'm like, huh. I had a conversation with someone recently that was talking about they had a friend. This person's in their mid to late 60s, and they had a friend that's in the same age group, right? And they're retired. And he was talking to his friend, and he said, "I really right now I figure I got maybe, you know, a good 10 years at least left of being able to do things, be active."
Right.
And he looked at it and he's like, "How many more weekends do I have left that I can do things that I want to do before it's too late?" And so I'm kind of thinking about what we're talking about, like what should we talk about, all this stuff, and not to get dark on
but it almost echoes what we had a couple weeks ago, that conversation based on Austin's post.
Yeah.
It almost, you know, kind of branches off of that.
Yeah. And it's like you do the math. Obviously, no one knows how much time you have, but when you hear from people that like they're not doing stuff for themselves, they have some time, and then it's like you finally talk to them, and it's like my buddy who I love to death, and it's like this is something that, and it's not even that he just was like, "I don't want to do that." He's like, "Yeah, I would love to do that vacation. Like, we'll look at it and all this stuff." And you keep sending him information. It's like, "These are the dates. This is the resort. This is the like all the information." Okay, cool. Like, we'll look at it. And it's like eventually it comes, and it's like that. It was the timing of it all that really kind of put all of this together in my mind, where it was just like, yeah, you could have been here. But instead, it was the random night that you were asking if I was at Easton, which is where I work, that you might be up there because you have a free night that you're actually getting out of the house. And it's like, to each their own, but it's like, what do you like? When are you going to do something? You know what I mean? Like, when are you going to just do something that you enjoy, especially when you have free time? Like I said, like something as simple as like the event on Friday night, when everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, I'd love to do that." What I hear more often than not necessarily our big annual event, but I hear it about like some of the small ones we do, or it's like if you invite someone to a party or whatever, the events at work that we host. The thing that really ties into this is usually when it is about days or a week or so after said event, and they say, "When is that thing again?" And you're like, "That was last week." And they're just like, "Oh shit, man, I wanted to go to that." And it's like, everyone's got stuff going on, but it's like, come on, man. Like,
well, I think that's one thing that's great about the Smoking Tent event is it's around the same time every single year. It's a big one.
Yeah,
it's gonna be around Patty's Day weekend every year. So I think that one, like, people start planning out and looking ahead on that one.
Maybe
if it's just like a you know, not a random vacation, but something where if it's not something you do every single year, I think it kind of gets lost in the hubbub of daily life.
Yeah.
Jess and I are trying to, I think, get back into doing our Kentucky trip every year.
And that's great.
And, because we had done that a couple of years, years ago. And I was off by a couple of years as to when the last time we had done that was. It's just one of those things. It's like, you know what? We actually have fun doing this. Thankfully, it's
God forbid.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's around the same time every year. So it's something to look forward to. It's like something you start planning ahead for. Either you start saving for it or you start putting in vacation for it already. Like it's something that in your mind's already on the calendar. When it's, I feel like
it helps.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when it's something, it's like, hey, in a couple weeks we're going to be doing this. Like, yeah, let me check my schedule.
Yeah.
Really? Like, do you not know what's going on in 2 weeks? Like, I mean, for the most part, I can sit there and tell people my work schedule, every day for the next, 6 months probably, unless something drastic changes at work. Same thing with you. You're like, here's my work schedule. It's the same thing. Like if somebing, like if somebody,
I can tell you my time off schedule for the rest of the year. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's and Kristen has helped with that to a point, but it's like you make the plans and it all it is if there's something you want to do. And Ray puts a comment on there. I believe that when people dilly dally like that with making plans, it's because they really don't want to be involved. Okay, and then Kunal, you brought that up, right? Where it's like if people are just like kind of giving you they don't want to
the dance around, beat around the bush, however many euphemisms or sayings you want to come up with. It's like just tell me it's okay. I don't know. I feel like that might be some like long-standing like societal nicety sort of thing. I don't know if that's just pure conjecture or not, but I feel like we have all these ways that we're kind of expected to behave in certain social situations for sure. And I think one of those is, maybe it's perceived as rude to say you don't want to do something for whatever reason at some point in time. But I think anymore now, everyone kind of understands that, we're all pretty much busier than we've ever been at any other point in probably social situations with all kinds of stuff going on, for better or worse, life changing. But like, I don't know. I feel like, I've got a lot of friends, that have kids, and of course they're all very small kids. I never take offense or get upset if they, say, and they're not able to, and whatever, if they have to cancel last minute because something comes up, and they'll apologize like, oh, I'm so sorry. Dude, you got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Please never apologize. I will never be offended or upset. But I feel like there's a lot of people that for whatever reason, they don't have that ability to discern that slightest bit of understanding and empathy. So they get all upset about it and they feel like they have to apologize to these people. It's like, dude, man, you got little kids, you got a 1-year-old, you got a 5-year-old, whatever, you got a 10-year-old. I don't care, man. You got kids. I'm not going to be upset about something because I understand that you have all these responsibilities and things to deal with. So it's like, just tell me. Just be honest with me, and respect both of our times a little bit.
Well,
yeah.
So I think Ray's got a point. I think you've got a point. I think there's multiple sides. Obviously, there's different reasons for that stuff when they dilly dally. But I think you guys are both right. Sometimes they don't want to be involved, and then to what you're saying there is they don't want to be the bad guy for whatever reason in their mind, right? They don't want to like say no because they're worried about hurting your feelings. But I think some people do get that way, right? They're like, oh, like
right,
I don't
for sure
do it. They don't like me, all that stuff. I think if you can get to the point where if they don't want to come, okay, that's fine. Now I will take it a step further. Is what I've become a little bit more, I guess, accustomed to is, and I've talked to Kristen a lot about that. I think I talked to Nate a bit about it as well. Is like when I invite people to hosting stuff.
I was thinking about that when you were talking.
So it's like, so it's like, and
right.
So I feel bad sometimes. Like, for example, like Nate will invite me over for like a steak night, and it's just like the nights of all that stuff over the last several years. Like I feel bad because I haven't come over to that stuff. And I invite Nate and other people over to my place, or we're gonna do something, go out, like even some friends, like we've talked on the show, like doing NFL Sundays, going out and watching games because Bears fan, they don't show them here, so we go out. And there's some other people like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And it's like, hey, Sunday we're gonna be watching football at this bar. Oh, okay, I'll let you know. And you see him the next week, and you're just like,
hey, what happened?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at anymore. I don't.
Don't.
Yeah. And it's like I invite, and then eventually it's kind of like, all right, so this person who, that's fine. Everyone's got different roles in your lives, right? And it's like, so this is a friend. I've like, you almost like I start categorizing them in a sense where it's like,
Yeah.
I've invited you to several things. You haven't come. You don't invite me to anything, ever. Most of the times because they don't really do that. They don't host. They don't make the plans, right? But it's like, I'm not bitter. I'm not upset. I'm just like, I'm kind of done. I'm like, I'm not like done, like frustrated. I'm just like, I'm just not going to invite. Like, that's fine. They don't like to do this stuff. That's cool. Like,
I think in that,
if it comes up, it's like, oh yeah, we are having people over. Hey, I am like, they bring up an NFL Sunday. Like, hey, you guys watching the games anywhere? It's like, yeah, we're going to be like, are you guys doing something? Like, should we meet you somewhere? Like, still game. I'm not mad about it. I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. Like, it's like, I'm not going to keep putting myself out there for someone that doesn't want to reciprocate, whether they're dilly-dallying because they don't want to be involved. They don't want to say no. They're just like, oh yeah, I'll let you know if we're going to do that. It's like, you're living your life. You're doing that. That's fine. I just hope that when we speak going forward, I'm not hearing from you, not because I'm going to be mad about it, but I'm not hearing from you that it's like, yeah, just, life's just kind of, I don't really do anything. I'm just like this. I'd like to, but I'm like, I've given you opportunities, man. You got to do it for yourself.
I think it's one of those things where if you invited someone like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm hosting this party, or we're going out to watch Bears game or whatever, like, hey, can you make it? If that person sits there and goes, okay, what's the day? Oh, you know what? My kid's got a soccer game that day. All right, cool. No worries whatsoever. I understand, obviously your kids, family, like that stuff comes up. Like, you would rather them say that, because if they sit there and leave it open and then they don't show up, that just kind of makes you feel like you're not important at all. Like, it's more understandable if they've got something else going on. But when you sit there and invite them and they had nothing going on, and then you ask them, oh, hey, what'd you do last Sunday afternoon during the Bears game? I just sat around the house. Really? Like,
but I'm not even mad about that.
No, right.
Well, but that's the thing. Like
just say you don't want to. That's fine.
I think it's one of those things where, like, there's a point initially, like when you first start inviting someone to do some of those things and they never show up, but they never had, like, they weren't doing anything else. Initially, I think there's kind of that, all right, man, I really wish that person would have shown up. I'm kind of not necessarily hurt. That might be a little harsh, but it's like, okay, like, but if they just sit there and, if they actually have something else going on, that's understandable. If they have nothing else going on, you're like, okay, like, is it okay? Am hanging out with me not worth your time at all? Like,
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think you can take it that way. You'd rather
there be an actual thing going on.
One thing that I struggled with a long time, and I really kind of pushed myself, and I'm glad I did, was, so at the time I was single, and it was a point in my life where I figured out that I'm just going to do things that I want to do to get myself right. And I've told the story before. And again, we're talking about like specific things that I think could translate to a lot of different things. So don't try to, like, if you're listening, like, oh, I can't relate because I don't go to a bar to watch NFL games. I wanted to, like, you know what? I want to do this, and I'm going to put an invite out to friends. But if they don't want to go out to, like, watch NFL Sunday or whatever, if I want to go to, say, a cigar event like that we have coming up, and I'm worried about who's going to be there. Do I know anyone there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really, like, if that's that kind of, that hesitation there, I got to the point where I'm just like, I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to do it, so I'm going to go. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a high pressure situation. Like, I'll go to the event. Likely I'll know someone there. And if I don't, I'll just sit there and I'll listen and learn, or I'll, maybe if I'm sitting at a table, I'll have small talk with someone. It's like this exercise that, again, these days, after what we went through several years back now, it's like this socializing thing. I kid you not, watching the morning news, and they go to these things, and it used to be the lady on the local news that was always in charge of doing the COVID updates and everything, right? So like talking about all the stuff with COVID, and she would kind of give these health reports. This last week, I'm listening, and it's talking about going out and doing things and being social. And she ended this little segment of the report saying that, and studies have shown that, going out and doing things and socializing has led to lower chances of depression and isolation. And I'm just listening. I'm like, you're just defining socializing. Studies.
Yeah, no shit.
Studies from when? Like the 1400s? Like what the fuck are you talking about? It was just like, now we're having to tell people that you have to like, well, if you go do something, it'll be good for you. Like,
if
I
you go
can't
hang out with
this.
other people,
You might have to talk to people. Like, it was just so bizarre to me, because like, I know, because I had been at a point where if I was, I mean, it does kind of, it's relevant to a point, but it's like, it almost seems like common sense, because like, yeah, when you're in a bad mood, you don't want to be around people. You don't want to have to put on a fake smile and all that stuff. That's fine. You have a bad day. You're going through a bad period, but it's like, it gets to the point where you have to just make yourself experience life. Like, go do something. It goes
Humans
back
are social animals. It's we've been that way from the beginning of time. That's what separates us. One of the things that separates us from, a lot of the ways that like animals interact and kind of behave instinctually, but humans are social creatures. It's always been that way. It's nothing new. Yeah, that's kind of it. You're right. It's kind of funny now. We have all these things like that specifically mention what I think has just been universally understood without science being behind it to point out to those things. But it's like, yeah, man, you got to socialize, and whatever that looks like for you, as long as it's enough, but you got to socialize in some way, shape, or form. It's just really, truly necessary.
Well, I think too, like with kids and stuff online, and again, none of us are parents here on the show here. Sean is in the audience here, but like with the online stuff, you know what I mean? I think there's got to be a balance, but I mean, even that, and just like social media, like there's benefit to some of this stuff. Socializing can have different forms, right? So if you're doing it, online or playing games or something like that, like I feel like kids do that. Like back even when I was a kid, and like Nintendo came out, like we went from playing in the yard, playing football in the side yard, and playing wiffle ball, and hitting tennis balls too far and hitting people's houses, and then we got in trouble for that. Then like Nintendo came out, and it's like now you're going over the neighbor's kid's house that got the Nintendo first, and now it's like that is your form of socializing. Yes, you might have been using that neighbor kid because they had the Nintendo and you wanted to play it, but I feel like we now have the technology that's like you have the game, so you're not really doing that, but you're still having some sense of
hopefully they had
socialization.
Hopefully they had a 2-player game, because who wanted to go over to a friend's house to watch them play a 1-player?
Oh, dude, you just waited for your turn. You waited for the turn.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, dude, that you would just have to do it so that you could go through it together. Yeah, especially for me. So like growing up, and I grew up, I'm a little bit differently than a lot of people. Just depending on your age group and what was accessible to you and all that kind of stuff, right? But like I'll say, one of my favorite games of all time is God of War. Well, So when that game came out, I was 10, 11 years old when the first one came out. My mom was probably the one that wrote the book on helicopter parenting. So yeah, I didn't have access to those kind of things. And my best friend, so we'd hang out at his place and play that game together. So that was the only way I could play that specific game. But that kind of led itself to where like even my sister, she's only 2 years younger than me, but she's not like a nerdy gamer kind of person all the time, but she would find interest in a couple things here and there, even to the point where, she didn't really want to play the game, but she found it interesting. And so that's one of my favorite memories as a kid in my high school years, is sitting at the house. I have God of War or whatever it is. My sister, my younger brother, who's 6 years younger than me, we're all sitting around and I'm playing God of War. That was the gathering, right? That was the way that we could connect. So Yeah, sometimes there's that game that's out there, man, that, you know what? Yeah, I'll go to my buddy's house and watch him play, you know, whatever, God of War for 3 hours or whatever it was. You know what I mean? So some of that's there too.
Well,
There's some fun in that.
I remember when I was a kid and had Nintendo. You know, I had a bunch of games for Nintendo as a kid, but there was one in particular that, like, if I played it by myself and beat the game, that was fine. Like, there wasn't really a whole lot of emotion to it. It was more like, all right, cool. I just did that on my own. But Wednesday nights, when my dad would pick me up from church while my mom was doing choir practice, we'd go to Taco Bell, and then
There you go.
and then we'd go back to my mom's house, and my dad and I would play that game together and beat it every single week. It didn't matter how many weeks we had beaten that game. Just playing it together was the fun part, is doing it together. And I even did that some in college when Xbox and Halo came out. Like, you can play the campaign by yourself, but then either
fucking brilliant game.
Yeah, and then either playing the campaign with another person, or you know, when I was in college,
LAN parties, buddy.
Yep, LAN parties. You just
LAN parties.
Every single room had
showing my age right now.
Every single room had a block of 4 connectors, and you just hook that thing up, and you could play with anybody on campus. And
see, Steve, LAN stands for Local Area Network, and what it is
like a chamber of commerce, like this, where you go and network your businesses. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
no,
that's exactly what it was.
Like, we had like the obviously the outdoor football thing, you know. I mean, our outdoor football, you got all the neighborhood kids together with all that stuff. Video games for me, when they went from 2-player and going back and something like
16.
No,
yeah,
GoldenEye.
Oh,
that's the best, man.
So
that was it.
When GoldenEye, and I was at this opportune age, right? GoldenEye came out like right, it was like high school, college, or whatever. So like freshman year of college, it was like that was 90s. It. So if you had the Nintendo 64, you had it in one of the rooms, which we had a little quad room or whatever. And so we had a couch and it had that. I mean, when you're meeting new people, like GoldenEye was this thing because you had to all be in the same thing. We're playing like this computer that we've got in front of us is, I think it's a 15-inch. I think the TV that we had was probably like a 27-inch tops. So you're sitting there and you're all just crammed on this. It's a 3-person couch. And so you had 3 people on that and 1 person sitting on the floor, and you're playing
or sitting on the arm.
Yeah. I mean, that was, again, it's funny. Like, so depending on who's listening, you know, Ray says, are we really going there? Exactly.
We've lost a lot of people here. we lost a lot of guys.
But I think it was just more of like, I guess going back to this, and we are going down this road of video games and stuff like that. But I can't relate to the LAN parties. I can't relate because I had this window of something where that was, I think that's a generational thing too. Like, for me, that is playing video games together. I had no interest, and my brother's 2 years older than me, and he plays video games online. You know what I mean? But I had no interest once it went to you're playing with other people, but they're not there. No, that wasn't socializing to me.
Sure.
The way my brain worked with that was like, I'd rather just play like he called it campaign. I'd play one player.
Yeah.
But again, that's probably why I also, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but like I kind of grew out of it. I grew past it, is because my version of it was like, we had a New Year's. This is years ago. We had a New Year's when, remember, Guitar Hero was out, and then Rock Band came out. We had a New Year's at my old house.
Drummer.
Where it's like someone brought over Rock Band, and we were up until like 5 a.m. drinking and playing Rock Band. Because again, to me, that's a throwback. Everyone's in the same room and you're having fun together. So it was like a mix of like this video game thing, but there's also like real person to person, physically person to person, that, you know, the socializing thing. So
yeah, for sure.
I brought it up is that, like, with kids today, and like, not just kids, like I said, my brother does it, but like, there is a level of socialization, if you can work on that to make it a good thing, as opposed to detaching from the real world entirely.
Yeah.
And that's your only form of socialization, because that's
Agreed.
when something comes up. And now I think you have a mix of what Ray was saying, like people are dilly-dallying because they're not really interested versus people that they just don't know how to do it anymore. And that
They don't know how to socialize with other
leads you
people.
to,
And
again, a local news station basically saying, hey, studies show if you basically get out of the house and go face to face with people, like you might have less chances of depression and anxiety and this and that. It's like, sadly, because I feel like we went the other way, there are built up forms of depression and anxiety and social interaction. People are scared of it because they don't know how to do it. No one's teaching them. There's nothing there.
yeah, you're not thrown into that. You're not thrown into that situation just as a default all the time, because that's just the way that everything played out, right? Now you have access to these things that allow you, or not even have access, but they're kind of more of the norm than maybe the alternative kind of aspects of things, for sure. And so, of course, even through socializing, if I stay connected with a lot of my friends through online video games, but we're also friends in real life, because even as we're playing, we're still like talking and hanging out as if we were in the same room, and we stay connected through technology that allows us to do things that we didn't have. But ultimately, our ability to socialize with each other is that it's socializing. Whereas the issue, especially specifically in this regard of more modern methods of communication, if that's the way you start and that's how you do everything, then the way that you interact with people is very, very different than the way that you would interact with people face to face. And then you don't develop those skills, and then you decide, okay, well, I don't want to go and try, even as you get older or you start getting settled somewhere on your own, like, all right, now I'm not going to do those things that we used to do all the time to find people. And it doesn't even have to be like you go out and you've met your new best friend in the world till the end of time kind of thing. But like we all, to your point, we all have different roles. We all have like different, groups or categorizations of levels of friendship or whatever you want to call it. But now you develop all of those things, and you had to, and now you kind of don't, and people don't do that. So then they just kind of like further positive reinforce that cycle of, negativity and issues. And then, all right, well, now I don't ever go out and do anything because I don't know how to, and it makes me uncomfortable. But then I never learned how to because you don't do it. It's like, yeah, dude, you gotta figure out that balance and kind of start changing the way that you go about things so that you can learn how to talk with and interact with people on a face-to-face level beyond just like the gaming or the social media or whatever it is.
I think some people do really well socializing if it's around like-minded interests.
Yeah.
But then if they are outside of that, that's where they struggle socializing. So
Yep.
Last month when Jess and I went to Kentucky for a horse show, like that is Jess's thing. That is her arena. She can walk around the entire grounds and have conversations with anybody because they're all there for the same reason. She can go up to any of the vendors that are there selling tack or shoes or whatever and have conversations with these people because, this is, kind of her happy place. It's things that she's excited about. And these people that are there are also excited about it as well. And, that type of arena is not necessarily my forte, but I have this ability, and I know Steve does too, where you can throw us in just about any event or social situation, and we'll find something to talk about. Like we'll all of a sudden make friends that we're sitting there talking to for the next 3-4 hours or whatever. And not everyone's the same way. Like if I sit there and take Jess someplace else that's not equestrian related, like she's kind of that shy person, not really saying much until someone like actually brings her in on the conversation. There was one day years ago where her and I got asked to go help move some furniture for the lady that owns the barn where she boards her horse at. And the people that had the storage unit that had this furniture, she doesn't know them. So she was really quiet. I was wearing a podcast t-shirt. I think I was wearing the 2020 shirt maybe, or I may have been wearing
this one.
yeah, I may have been wearing either the shirt that Steve's wearing right now or some other cigar related shirt from the Tinder Box. It may have been the Smoking 10 event shirt from 2019. And I was wearing it, and the guy who
Brian's
owned
20th.
yeah, the guy who owned the property and had, the furniture was being kept in his storage unit. He's like, "Oh yeah, my roommate in college actually used to live with a guy that works at the Tinder Box." And I was like, "Wait, Steve Crane?" He's like, "Yeah." "Oh, so that would have been, what was your roommate?
Connor.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, so you went to school with Connor?" And he's like, "Yeah, how do you?" And I was like, "Well, Connor lives with Steve. Steve is the GM at Tinder Box, and I work at Tinder Box." This was 30 seconds into he and I meeting.
Right.
And Jess is like, "I don't get it. You're there for 30 seconds. And all of a sudden you guys are like talking like you're going to go out and have beers together."
Right.
Well, he's the guy that
We probably are.
He's the guy that owns.
As you crack a beer, like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. No, I'm sorry.
He's the guy that owns the auto shop that we go to now for all of our car maintenance and repairs and stuff.
Being able to be in a social situation and, even small talk is a skill. I think it's a somewhat necessary skill. Like, look, do we all love to do the small talk thing? And like, yeah, okay, maybe it's not even as much as like, oh, how's the weather? Like, yeah, okay, fine. But like, again, not every situation you're just going to start making your new best friend in the world. You can still socialize and still learn how to be like a functioning member of society and, go out and do things that you want to do just because you don't, to your point, if no one's coming out to this thing, doesn't mean I'm not going to go do the thing that I want to do.
Right.
I started doing that with concerts. Like initially I only liked going to concerts with friends or with my brother. And then I was like, man, am I really going to not go to a show that I really want to see this band because no one's there with me? Like worst case scenario, I get to stand there and go to a concert. If I really want to start talking with people, guess what? We're all there with at least one common interest, right?
Right.
Well,
you can talk with anybody if you really want to and have that social interaction. So whatever it is, you got to find it and have the ability to be out there and do that sort of thing.
To the flip side of that, like I love roller coasters. I love going to Kings Island, to your point. I love riding roller coasters. My wife, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And she's always like, "No, if you want to go to Kings Island someday, like go ahead." And I'm like, I don't want to either ride all the rides by myself, because it's like I kind of enjoy the experience with someone else that I care about, or like I'm gonna ride every ride with some random person sitting next to me, and it's gonna be really awkward as fuck. Like, yeah, how's it going? And you're just sitting there cool. Like, yeah. They're like, all right, how nerdy or weird do I make them believe I am when it comes to roller coasters? Like, how much excitement do I let out, or do I just keep it all in and go, yep, I had a fun ride on that one.
FYI, if you ever want to come down to Kings Island, I haven't decided on it this year, but I usually get a gold pass and go a few times. I don't go on every single ride anymore because of my back, but I'll go on like the 5 ones that I really love. Dude, come on down, let's do it. Because the girlfriend, she'll buy a gold pass. I'm like, you literally hate rides. She goes, yeah, but I'll walk around with you. She doesn't even stand in line with me. I go, why'd you spend $200 to walk around? Which, by the way, she's like ghost white. So if she's out in the sun for 5 minutes, she burns. I'm like, whatever. Hey, this is your decision. I don't want to tell you not to come.
Does she like funnel cakes?
Yeah, she loves like the blue ice cream and this and that. And I'm like,
yeah. That's what she's getting out of it.
So that's at least something that Jess would do when we did go to Cedar Point the day before it opened. It was all OSU alumni and stuff. Like she would wait in line with me, although I don't think I waited in line more than 30 minutes at all that day.
Cedar Point's usually faster than Kings Island.
Well, but again,
usually
it was before the park officially opened for the season.
Oh, okay.
It was just alumni and like one other group, large group that was there that day. So there were times you just get right back in line, get on the same ride again and again. But she would at least wait in line. And then they're like, "Oh, the two of you," and she's like, "No, I'm
No.
I'm right." And she would just step all the way through to the exit
Mhm.
and just wait for me.
Yeah, I would rather her do that. I just go, look, I don't know why you're going to spend $200 to have access to $15 funnel cakes. Like, if you want to go get a funnel cake, we can spend a lot less. I mean, whatever, that's her thing. But yeah,
Does that
dude,
mean you don't want to go
no,
with me? That's what it turns into.
I
You just
know,
wanna go,
and I
you
just
don't want me to be there, do you?
you're gonna go so you can hit on all these chicks and ride around and then leave me forever. Like, yep, that's exactly it. That was the plan.
You should
That
just
was
come
the
back with
plan.
that.
You saw right through it.
Love me some carny folk. I like Justin Turner. I've always said that about movies. Everyone says they hate going to the movies alone. Well, you don't talk during a movie. Go alone. That's a good example.
It's a great.
me, it
It's
was
like I think the prime example.
For me, it was like, and it's funny because I feel like people change as they get older. And then I want to make a comment about, is that a jet?
Yes.
Could be.
Yeah.
But it's like back, Nate, you brought up, and you're like, I'm the same way, that you can just like small talk anyone. Well, I hated small talk in my previous career when I was told that I need to go to, we were joking about the land thing and all. I was told I had to be a part of a chamber of commerce. I had to go to a leads group and stuff like that. I hated that. It was like I was in the moving and storage industry, and I was going to these like local chambers of commerce, and I could tell people I work for a moving company, but it's like moving companies are always the last person that people call when they are going through a move.
Yeah.
They call the contractors, they call the remodelers, the stagers, they call everyone else, and then eventually someone calls a mover. So it's nice being there, but it's like having that forced small talk. There was a time in my life in my 20s where, I mean, I had that, like, kind of the sweaty palms. Like it wasn't that I was super nervous. I just didn't want to be there. It was like I have shit I have to do back at the office. You know what I mean? But this was an important part of the business and a learning thing. And I appreciate that I went through that, so that I had to learn how to just do it. Just you're going to do it. Like nowadays it's, she'll probably listen to this later, but I mean, it's not like I have anything against, but like with Kristen, like, hey, we're going to go, do this with my friends and stuff like that. And in the beginning, like I didn't know any of them. It wasn't really my, whatever it might be, say it wasn't my scene or whatever. And I don't really know these people and all that stuff. I just went and did it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll just go and, I might be quiet. I might let the whole group kind of take form and do what they're going to do. And then I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to like be present. I'm still not going to
supportive.
Well, not supportive is one way to say it. For me, I'm just saying it's not even being supportive. It's what we're doing.
I want to do this with you.
Yeah, but if you're going to do something, you might as well just do it. Like that's the thing. Is like I made a decision. I'm going to go do this with you, so I'll be present. I'll be that person. I'm not going to like
You're not going to be the
overdo
star.
it. I'm not going to try to take the center stage. I'm not going to like overdo it as far as like my personality or anything like that. I'm going to try to do my best to do that. And again, it's something it's a skill. That you have to work on. You know what I mean?
Walks into the bar. Who wants shots?
No, you try not to do that. That's a easy way to do it. What I wanted to bring up also, and it's funny because we had a few people, some of the little bit older guys that left the conversation are like, oh, I'm going to leave when we're talking about video games and stuff like that. I thought it was a really valid point where we've talked about this on this show before about, and this is going back a couple years now, where we were hoping that going back into the world post-COVID is that people kept some of their best practices during that time, which was reaching out to people, being present, utilizing things like social media to stay involved in people's lives. Unfortunately, I have a strong feeling is that we have at this point, mid 2024, we're in now, that we have as a society lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of the best practices, stuff like that. And I'm not calling out anyone on this that was listening to the podcast, but as soon as it was something they were not really interested in, they're gone because they're going to go do whatever else. And I'm not saying that they don't have anything else going on in their lives, but it's like, as soon as it was like, it hit something that they just turned the channel, right? Where I look at it, where what we were talking about,
I think it's gotten worse than that.
it might have flipped
like,
back worse. Well, wait, let me
Go
finish
ahead.
here real quick, and then hold that thought, please. Is that the Bourbon and BS community page, for example? We started that in October of 2019. Then all of a sudden, all this shit shut down, and it grew to 1,000, 1,500 members. And the first sign of doing things, like the first Smoking Tent event that we brought up earlier, it was like this reunion of people, and people came in from not just locally that knew each other through the Bourbon and BS community page. So through social media, they knew the names. Through the podcast, they knew the names. They interacted through this channel. And when they came face to face, it was like they knew each other forever. And they had this great interaction with people. Fast forward, very short period of time, that doesn't exist already. There's no excitement over it because everyday life has dominated again. And I know everyone has responsibilities, like I said, but it's like at that time, I felt like for a period of time, the biggest benefit coming out of that period in 2020, 2021 was that people started missing interaction. They started missing getting out of the house. They started missing seeing people. And they actually were able to use the technology that we had, not only for work and careers and stuff like that, but they were able to use it to FaceTime, to do these types of things. And I know everyone had more time on their hands, so that is part of it, that they had time to do these things. But the importance of this, the interaction with other people and going to do these things. I mean, people were so bored that if you said, hey, I'm going to do like in our example, we're going to do a community whatever feed where anyone can log on and do this like Zoom. People were doing fucking Zoom happy hours. You know what I mean? And it was like this big thing that they like everyone got on there because they had the time. And I get that. And that time is sometimes tough to find, but it was just so interesting to me and it is so interesting to me that now we've reverted back to, I feel like that life takes so much control, as they say, that no one prioritizes any of that interaction. No one prioritizes getting together. Even if you try to say, hey, when are you available to get a drink? I've got friends like that. Or when are you available to get together or whatever? And it is the hardest thing to do. It is so difficult to nail someone down and pin them down to say, you said you want to get together. What day works for you? And it might take months to get that other person to be like, yeah, we need to do that. And you just keep saying it. You keep saying it. I feel like it happened before 2020. Shortly thereafter, like things started opening back up. And in 2021, 2022, everyone was so excited about it. Fast forward 18 months, 24 months later, and now it's right back to the same thing. And I feel as though people's like level of dissatisfaction and depression are skyrocketing again. And it's like we know what we can do. We know what you're saying, and it's like you got to find time to do it. I know you're paying now $20-some a month for Netflix, but like, come on.
I think the pendulum has actually swung more the other direction than right before COVID.
How so?
Because I think people were all right. I think people were somewhat social leading up to COVID, and obviously COVID, like people were stuck inside. They're doing the FaceTime stuff. When things opened up, all of a sudden they because they had gone so long without person to person, like in person socialization. Like they started making every opportunity to be social with people and hang out with people because they hadn't been able to do it. And then I think it's gone, I think they very quickly grew tired of that to where some people are now less social than what they were before. I think they just got tired of stuff. And now they're just like, I don't want to be around people anymore.
Go ahead. Go.
Now, granted, some people out there have just gotten crazier and more nuts. But
they've always been crazy and nuts, but
people have always been crazy and nuts, yes. But I think some people just swung the pendulum too far the other direction where they were more sociable in 2019 than they are in 2024. And they were very sociable in 21, 22 when things opened back up. And now they're just, they weren't necessarily, hanging out in a cave at home by themselves, but now they're kind of being that way a little bit. Whereas I
think we just take it for granted.
I would agree with both of you guys on that a little bit. Do you think that people now in general, is it a choice? Or is it taking things for granted? Is it just, and let me reintroduce that kind of the line of thought of the comment where it's like, how many weekends do you have left in your life? Do the math. Based on your age, yeah, when you're like, you're a teenager, you're in your 20s, and you say, all right, so life expectancy, probably less than, but like say it's 80 years old if all things go well, right? So you do that number, and it's like, how many Friday nights do I have left in my life? It's thousands. You start hitting 40, 50 years old, 60 years old, you start doing that math, and it's like, all right, so what's that divided by? All right, so I got 52 Fridays left times this many years. Still looks like a pretty good number, but it's not what it was. And again, not trying to put a dark light on that, but it should be a motivator, I feel like. And I feel as though, like with what we're talking about, is there was this sense of being scared of the unknown with all that stuff in 2020, 2021. And when things started opening back up, like not everything had. So like now you still have some time available, but I keep going back to the best practices, and it's like, do you think it is a choice, or do you think it literally is people just slip back into the routine of every life? Not saying that the responsibilities are bad things, families and jobs and stuff like that. Like, I mean, these are time consuming parts of your life. I understand that is a big time factor, but to just go through months, days, weeks, months, years of just be like, I haven't done anything enjoyable. And I feel like, I mean, I'll put it to you guys. What do you think? Is it a choice? Is it just, this is the way things are? Like, what are we doing here?
I think it is a choice. Last month I was reminded in my Facebook memories, back in 2020, it was probably maybe 6 weeks into the whole thing, being in lockdown still and having to work from home and couldn't go anywhere. My wife and I actually had a couple friends over at our house for steak and wine Sunday. And we had steak, wine, we played games, and we had an absolute blast. We had a bunch of laughs. We just enjoyed each other's company. And I had posted about it on Facebook, and I had some friends and even family members that lost their fucking mind.
Because of what?
That I had people over at my house. God forbid I interacted
because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
Oh, well, that's different. Yeah.
Like one person was like, oh yeah, nice job breaking the law. And I just respond back going, please show me the Ohio revised code that I broke. Please do so. And it's like, no, there wasn't a law. It was just, that's what everyone was doing. And it's like, no, I wanted to hang out with people. I would still want to live my life, wanted to hang out with people and have a good time, because when we were all in lockdown, we were all fucking miserable. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to hang out with friends and have a good time. And we did that. And some people lost their shit. And I remember sitting there going, yep. And that's why I'm happier than you are right now.
Let me ask you this, guys, and Sean too. I mean, anyone listening, it's the, when you say to an event, to a concert, to whatever, I'm going to go to the next one. I'll just go to the next one. That mentality. Just, it's like I look at it. So
I don't know, man.
So I'll say this, and I'm going back to the specifics here that, that people that, part of the Bourbon and BS community, people might be listening that went to like the Smoking 10 event or stuff like that. I look at that with this event coming up. And again, this is just what's on my mind, but like the Smoking 10 event, when we did the first one after being shut down for 2 years, not being able to do it, that was a big just fucking reunion for people that hadn't met, that people knew each other. It was like everyone was so excited about that. We did sell out this year, but I had heard from people, it's like, no, like you have that mentality. It's like, oh, I've been to them before, or like I might go to the next one, or I'll go to the next one. I'll do it next time. It's like this. There's no excitement. That's fine. Maybe it's played its course, whatever you might be doing in life, whatever it is. And again, this is not personal or anything like that for me. I'm just trying to think of examples like this one. Like a couple of people are like, well, I'm out with the geek stuff here. You know, it's like, I'll see you guys next week. And it's like, what if we're not here next week? What if you're not here next week? It's like, I know this is not like life or death. Like this is the most important show in the world, but it's like to have that mentality of it's like, I'll go to the next one. I'll tune in next time. I'll
go with you the next vacation.
Yeah, we'll schedule a vacation next time. Like we're just
Maybe
busy
next
this year. And again, not taking away from the fact that life literally does demand you. Like maybe you can't financially afford a vacation. You can't financially afford to do something. But when it's simply the mentality of it's like, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I'll probably just go to the next one. It's like, how many times are you going to say that? Because you may not have that chance. And if it's simply because you don't feel like going, or it's not because something is more important or whatever, you're just like, nah, I don't know. I'm not really feeling. I'll probably just go to the next one. It's like, will you? For whatever reason?
So
turn him on. Turn the mic on. Don't turn him on.
Okay.
Thank you for
too late.
Oh.
I think that would people do that, maybe they've just generally lost interest, or they just weren't wanting to, a lot of people are afraid to commit, and so they wait until last minute. And
why do you think that is, though? Sorry to interrupt.
I think there's people out there that always wait for something that's maybe something else will come along, or a lot of them, a lot could be like just people that are married. Like, I don't know if my kids are going to have something that week or something like that. But the one thing that I notice is the people that are there are fucking having a blast.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we need to focus on, is the people that do come and do appreciate it. And the people that don't, that's their prerogative. And there's going to be time in their life they're going to look back and say, shit, I wish I would have done that. But that's their decision. And there's nothing we can do. I mean, you present every year, you guys, with the flyers and the videos, and I get pumped from like the minute you start doing it. And
love that. Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I think everyone that goes there has the same feeling. But I think people that, you and I and us, we're big into cigars. A lot of people are kind of like come and go, or or like, yeah, it'd be cool, but
yeah.
So I tend to, because I send a lot of offers out to friends, and they're like, yeah, I'll see what I can do, but I can tell like they're not into it as much as I am.
Yeah.
And so you got to have a love for it, and for anything if you really want to do it, So like I said, I like to, coming from my history with all my health problems, like I definitely take advantage of situations that I can, when there's opportunities to be able to do something like this Friday, for example. I want to come, but it's also Teresa and I's 24th year wedding anniversary.
Not aimed towards you specifically.
Dude, that's not even 25, dude. Like, what does it even matter?
Maybe I'll go this year with you guys.
You buy 2 tickets and go together.
I'll make it extra special for both of you. I'll do that. And I don't mean that in a weird way. I'm just saying.
We'll see what's going on. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I want to come and hang out. I got to get a vibe from the wife first. But anyway, I don't know. I just think that things in life.
Happy anniversary, by the way. That's
thank
awesome.
You. Yeah. But I think that it's disappointing, because I have a lot of friends, or I've known people who are like, hey, I'm getting together, I'm gonna have a fire or whatever. Oh yeah, I'll see what I can do.
I've done it too.
Yeah, but it's not like I take it personally, and like I'm not like I'm disappointed, but I also understand, and that's just with life in general. I remember for a couple years straight, I would always for my birthday, like have like announced to like 3 weeks in advance, hey, I want to do a fire, I want to get people together, and probably out of everyone that I've had, maybe 5 people showed up.
Right.
And for a while, it was like, it used to bug me. And then I'm like, you know what? People have lives, and I'm just going to enjoy and cherish the time I have with the people that are there.
Yeah.
And appreciate that, and not try to dwell on what
it's good
people can or can't do, and so that's how I see it.
I think that's good perspective. I think on top of all that, talking about those get-togethers, as an invitee, I get it. I mean, that's one of those things. It is really easy to say, and that's a good point because it actually hits home a little bit. Like when you would say, I got Saturday night or something like that, and I'm like, I'm working all day. I just don't know if I'll be able to do it. I got to go home to the dog or Kristen or whatever. It's not. I don't have that FOMO thing, right? The fear of missing out anymore. So it's like you don't like think about it a little bit. The other side of it is that you were bringing up like the 10 event, and the people that are really into it, obviously, they go, they have a good time. The biggest impact that I have, and then like my biggest takeaway from some of this stuff is you don't necessarily have to go to everything. Don't go out of your way. Don't, like if you had a bad week and you're not going to be your best self, whatever. Sometimes it's better to get there. Sometimes it's better just to, I will go next time. Again, I'm not necessarily trying to prove a point. I'm trying to have a conversation here. My favorite thing though, with some of the things that I've gone to, and like with some of the events that I've helped host, it's the people that this is my first time, and to see that they're like, yeah, I thought about coming for years and now I'm here, and holy shit, I wish I had gone to this every time I said I might come to this, and now I'll never miss another one. And I think sometimes those opportunities in life are ones that you have to be conscious of. Don't run yourself ragged. Don't put out money that you maybe don't have. See those like memes, or I see them now, especially because the trips is like, take that trip. It's like, if you don't have the money, don't take the trip, but like try to figure it out where you can still have some experiences that you think you might enjoy, and don't let your hesitation be the reason you don't go.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say two things. The two things. The one thing is for the Smoking 10 event was getting Chris, our mutual friend Chris Faulkner, to come. He could never really afford it, and I've got a job now where I can help people out when I can, and I was able to get him to come. And you would have thought he was a kid going to fucking Disney World. I mean, he was like just blown away by everything there. As a matter of fact, the night of the Smoking 10 event, or after it was over, he went on Facebook Marketplace and bought a humidor. And he had me see.
Just gone to the Tinder Box.
Yeah,
or I have an extra one, but yeah,
he had and I had him see.
He's not one to ask for anything.
No, and I seasoned it for him, so he's like so excited to be able to like put everything in there, and that's the kind of shit. That's what makes that event so good. Well, and the other thing, real quick, and then I'll stop. No, is the whole like the FOMO thing, and like I'm the same thing. Getting older, I'm like, like I used to be like, oh, I gotta go. Now I'm like, I actually like just chilling, And my wife, she's got some really good friends that they go out quite a bit, but every day or evening before she goes out, she's like, man, I really don't want to go. And then she picks herself up and does it, and she had the best time of her life. So a lot of times you have to get over that hump of
balance, like, right? There's a balance there.
You have to get over that hump of just being like, I know once I go, I'm going to have a great time. It's just trying to get out of that comfort zone that you're in your house. You don't feel like getting dressed up and going, but once you do, you're glad you went. So.
Well, one of the things that I've learned recently in my career, and it relates to what Steve's talking about those, those people that are like, I'll go to the next one, or, I'm not going to go this year. One of the things I think about is, okay, fine. That opens the opportunity for other people who maybe haven't gone to be able to get a ticket and come to the event. That's one of the things that we deal with at work is, we have a series of events once a month for the first 6 months of the year, and there's only 24 tickets for each event because it's a small, kind of formal, private type of event. But of those 24 spots, it's like the same 16 people every single month, and we get a lot. But like, I mean, if you had people that came to the 10 event and they came and they got their cigars from all the vendors, and that was it. They didn't get anything else. Like, okay, cool. You had a good time. Glad you came. Glad you got cigars and stuff like that. But they're not buying anything else.
Mhm.
That doesn't really help the shop that much because you guys make almost nothing just on the sale of the
It's
tickets.
customer appreciation event.
It is.
Dude, they set it up right. The $25, by the way, $25 4-pack, 2 Anniversarios and 2 valid. I was like, dude, I can get a fair amount of these cigars as I want for my job, and I was about to be buying some packs because that is ridiculous. So the fact that they do that, not just and that's just one example of everything that they put into that to set that up to make it again a customer appreciation event. I was like completely blown away. So you got to be kidding me! I was not anticipating that level of effort in those specific regards. Like, dude, that was incredible.
But
sorry, not interrupt.
That's all Brian, by the way.
The point I'm making though is we get some of these people coming to some of these events and they're literally coming to the event just to come to the event. And that's it. That's all they do.
Out.
It's a night out and that's all they do. And there's a lot of other people that come in that want to come to the event, but it's sold out by the time, they see the tickets or by the time they think about it. And so we've actually talked about the idea of opening it up to more people and getting more people the opportunity to experience that and get more fresh blood into those events and get people excited, because there are some people that they're just coming to, like, they haven't marked on their calendar because it's, it's the last Tuesday of the month for the first 6 months of the year. And they just go there for the sake of going there. And it's like, I don't think you guys are really appreciating like the event itself and the opportunity that is provided to you at this kind of event. And
but they're coming, so at least you have that.
They're coming, but that's it. Like there are some people and some events I'm like, I think you came here just to drink wine, and that's it. That's all you want to do. It's just drink the wine that we were pouring for you, and that was it. Like, you drank your wine, you did your event, and then you were out the door. But there are some people that are like, no, I want to come there because the people that come to these events, they get first opportunity of anybody to be able to get these products. Some of these products are not available to regular customers. Like at Smoking 10 event, those samplers are not available any other time of the year to the general public. You're not the sampler pack that we had for Aganorsa leaf, that is not available 364 days a year.
I'm with you, Canal. I thought about buying a couple of those.
I was like, you gotta be shitting me. $25?
I was working.
I mean, that's better than buy 2 get 1 free, because 2 Anniversarios is $30.
Canal, I wanted to let you know too. I bought the 2 packs for you, and you guys gave me a really cool coffee mug. And my wife, my wife's a huge coffee drinker, and that woman drinks from that mug every freaking day, dude.
Love it. That's awesome.
By the way, she tried to microwave it, like to heat up the coffee. Don't do it. And there's metal in the paint, and it started sparking.
God!
FYI, need a warning label on that one.
Yeah.
That also,
okay.
We had a customer come in.
Good PSA there.
Yeah.
We had a customer come in, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks after the 10 event. They had gotten a couple samplers of the Aganorsa cigars. And so because of that, they were supposed to get a hat, I believe, or something but you had run out of hats. And you got the gentleman's information, and then you mailed him not 1 but 2 hats. He literally walks into the Tinder Box, didn't even buy anything. He just walked into the Tinder Box to tell us, like, I bought this, and the guy said he was going to email me, and I thought he was full of shit. But no, he actually mailed me 2 hats. And I just want to tell you guys how appreciative I am for them going, above and beyond and actually holding up to their word.
And that's why you have to have at least one person per booth not drink too much so they remember shit. Because
that's usually me.
There's been other times where, like, there was a there was a trip to Nicaragua that turned into a trip to Honduras, because that was a big one. That was a headache for me. But yeah, you got to remember what.
I'm glad she's enjoying the mug, because I saw them, and we're not we're not some companies that have a ton of swag, and it's kind of a, I guess, complaint that we get oftentimes from a lot of people. But I said, look, guys, the swag that people do get, though, it's really good quality. Microwave metal sparks notwithstanding, the quality of the products is actually very good, and we want to give you guys stuff that you'll want to actually have and utilize, and it be functional. So I'm ecstatic to hear that she loves that mug and uses it, because I'll tell you, I don't even have one. So that's awesome. That's
maybe
awesome,
if you
man.
would have gone to the sales table, bought a couple Aganorsa leaf samplers.
I would have had a chance. Yeah, I would have had a chance. That's okay. That's all right. I want other people to get their hands on them and enjoy the product, and spread the love a little bit. So I'm super happy about that. And I know exactly the guy. Nate, you even messaged me on Facebook to let me know that. But I know exactly who you're talking about. And again, we wanted to make that effort. We appreciated people coming out. It was our first time being out there at all, which was
because of that.
It was awesome and exciting. And we're not doing it for no reason, right? We're doing it because we love this side of things, and we love people being excited about it too. So we just wanted to share that enjoyment and that love a little bit.
Well, I'll take this this kind of talking about the 10 event and going back to the whole kind of whatever the topic was at hand type thing, is even with that, is you can plan a party like that, and we have grown doing that so much that you want to try to have an experience. And every year, the worry is that people will be tired of it, because everything we're talking about tonight is that I feel as though at some point people just get tired of it. They have I've been to it before, I don't need to go this year. So you try to make it special, right? And it's not just, it's great, the samplers, the giveaways, the raffle prizes, if you play the raffle, all
Who
that
knew
stuff.
there was going to be karaoke?
Big sing along, you know what I mean? But it is very difficult that I've found this by being part of like hosting events, even at my own house, but at like big events like that, is you try to give an agenda, and people are paying a certain amount to have an experience. And even that's sometimes hard, because, we do say the raffle at the end of the event. And when people come in at a certain hour and they're like, they're kind of like, oh, I've gotten my cigars. I had brunch and lunch or whatever it is. And it's like, when's the raffle? It's like, oh, it's an hour and a half. They're like, do you have fucking somewhere to go?
Yeah.
Give yourself some time. Like, it's one of those things where I'm looking at, I'm like, just like, look around you. These are the moments that it's like, you're going to wish you stayed here. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, like, do you have somewhere to go? Not really. Like, there are some people, right? They're like, I got to go. I got a kids thing, or I got to get out of here. I was here until like 2, or we go till like 6. And it's like, the raffle's at like 4:30. It's on your thing this year. Like, it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I just want to go. It's like, then go. Like, that's one of those then go. I mean, I'm not going to keep you here, but at the same time, it's like, in the next 2 hours, you're going to drive home, and what are you going to do? Do you have something planned, or are you just going to go home because you're kind of over it? You like,
I know we had,
it's to a point where I'm like, and again, I'm not trying to be like, to anyone that goes to 10 event, I'm not mad at anyone. It's like, you can go. Like, we planned a full agenda that we hope that you will enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you want to come and just get your cigars and go, that's fine. It's like hosting a cookout. It's like, we're going to be here all night. Nate, Sean, you've been over at my house for a cookout. Some people duck out early, you know what I mean? And other people like that, they just kind of hang out. You're going to go home. You're going to sit in front of the TV, whatever you're going to do.
Some of us have to have our wife sit there and go, can we please go home? I got to get up for work in the morning.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, me. It's you try to just have this like experience, like just enjoy it, like allow yourself to enjoy it. And that is a very big ask sometimes for you to literally look at another person and be like, just enjoy the moment, enjoy this experience.
We had someone 2 years ago. They told me this. I'm sure they told you too. 2 years ago, or I should say last year, 2023 was going to be the first smoking tent event they went to, and they weren't going with any friends. They'd come to the Tinder Box, but they never hung out. But they got a ticket to come to the tent event. And the night before, they were almost trying to talk themselves out of going to the event. And then the next day, they're like, you know what? I got a ticket. I'll just go. And they came to the event and had an absolute blast. They had an amazing time. They could not stop talking about how good of a time they had, to the point where when it came up this year, like, they were so looking forward to the event this year. But had that person actually talked themselves out of it last year, they wouldn't have had that experience. They wouldn't have met the people that they met. And they wouldn't have made the connections that they did. And some of the people that they met from last year are friends of theirs now. And it was one of those things, they almost didn't want to go, but they're so glad they did.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to what you're talking about. Like, okay, you're not sure about coming, but you know what? I bet you're going to have a better time if you come versus if you don't.
You're absolutely right. I made that sound because Ray Cheshire was saying how cheap the cigars were when he went there and all that stuff. And even including the cost of flights and entry, they were still cheap. And I said, see you next year. He responded back, are you coming to Vietnam? Chris and I have talked about it.
I'll go to Vietnam.
Well, we got a contact that you can hook up with, Ray Cheshire. He's fantastic. He and his wife, Jane.
I don't think I'm more jealous of anybody's posts than his when he's like, yeah, I'm just hanging out here in Vietnam. And I was like, oh my God, dude, that'd be awesome.
If you were in a game a couple years ago, you would have met Ray, because he did actually, he's making the comments there, is that he and Jane were coming to the US in 2022. And they made a point to make their stop here where he used to live, and they came to the event. Ray, it is on the plans, unfortunately for you. 2025 is, we got a wedding to prioritize.
Hey, you can get married whenever, dude. You don't have to do that, anytime soon. It's not important, right?
I'll share Kristen's contact with you, and you can
heavy. Yeah. I'll tell her for sure. Heavy sarcasm.
That exactly the same way you did.
I'll put Ray and Jane. I'll put Ray and Jane on the invite list.
Heavy sarcasm.
He's like, yeah, just come out to Vietnam. We'll host you. I'm like, fuck. I don't think our family's going to want to be able to do that either.
I would eat my weight in food. That's all. I mean, that's like that. You want to talk about a dream job? Guy Fieri, right? Anthony Bourdain, that whole thing, man. That is the life right there. And I'm not saying that in a way like, oh, those guys never worked hard and got to it. I'm not saying any of that kind of stuff, right? But like, dude, you want to talk about sitting around as a kid, like, what would your dream job be? I don't know, get paid to travel the world and eat food. That sounds great.
Yeah. And I don't know, like that actually, you bring up what's Anthony Bourdain?
Anthony Bourdain.
I don't know if he actually said this, but that's what I see a lot of times on social media is some of like the memes with him in there saying like, eat the food, take the trip, do this, all that stuff. And he passed away at a younger age, in my opinion, but it was just like that kind of thing is just so, to me, it's impactful to this conversation. All that stuff is try to at least enjoy the time you have. And I think sadly, the fact that he did pass away, at a younger age, not young, but like, it wasn't your life.
Yeah, he didn't pass away of natural causes at an old age, right?
Right. So I mean, but again, experiencing life, you look at that and you bring that up. It's like, shit. I mean, that's a great life motto to a point. Again, don't go into debt. Don't lose your job over it. Don't lose relationships over it. Make sure that you're doing it in a path that makes you happy, but experience that life the best you can. And I know that, and again, we can go into the closing remarks here, but I'll introduce the fact that not everyone is wired the same. I know everyone
Oh,
has
sure.
different natural personality traits. Like there's the disc test, whatever else out there now. Like there's so many different things out there that everyone has a different personality type, right? Of what the way they operate, the way they go through life. But at the very least, it's do the things that make you happy the best you can, in my opinion, because I spent years of my life through the ups and downs and everything else, through relationships, a marriage. Now I'm engaged again years later. I've been fired from jobs. I've been, I've been loyal to jobs. I've done all that stuff. And I just, at my age, not even that old, 43 years old, and I look back and I learned so much, but at the same time, there are times where I wish I knew, just like everyone, I wish I knew then what I know now. And I would have handled certain situations and time periods, like full blown time periods. I would have handled them differently. And the only thing that really kind of makes me sleep good at night is the fact that I give a little bit of credit to life happening, that I'm at the point that I am right now where I'm very extremely happy with my life, with my job, with my relationship, with my health and everything else, because of all the things I've learned from all of that. And the fact that I can have a conversation like this on a show that we do that has a small yet loyal listening following, that it's just, I wouldn't have done this show 15 years ago. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have had these conversations. I couldn't have these conversations that long ago because I didn't have it in me. And all of those experiences is, I think, some of the self-realization aspects that you may have is what puts you in those situations, or those, I guess, the attitude of life in general, that you want to do things that make you happy. It's not just because time is fleeting, but because you have appreciation for your time. The value of your time is dictated by you. And if you aren't actually defining that, you don't know what you want to do with your Friday night. You don't know what you want to do with the time that you're awake between work and personal life and relationships and everything. If you don't define the value of your time, you won't maximize it. In fact, more often than not, I feel as though you will probably just let time pass you by, because you have given the time in your life little to no value, and you are literally just going through the motions. And I'm of the opinion,
You're
I
just
don't know,
living to die.
you're living until you die. And that's where I look at it, is that, like, you define your value of your time. And I feel as though if you do that and you give yourself credit and you give yourself a high value of your time, that, I think, is when you may start either turning the corner, or if you're already doing it, you might actually continue doing what you're doing. If you've already done that, I feel as though you're going to continue to enjoy life to the fullest. It's not always this thing where you're like, I'm climbing mountains, I'm skydiving. It's not that part of it. It's like doing things that you actually enjoy is because you value your time. Those are my
The
closing.
great philosopher Bruce Dickinson once said, "Isn't it strange that as soon as you're born, you're dying?"
Right. And I always heard the one is, if someone told you from the very beginning that you are dying, you would live your life in a very different way.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Bring up the mood there, Nate. Go ahead.
So talking about, you just mentioned there about, doing things that may be outside your comfort zone. I think they're still within reason to that. Like if you're not great in social situations, like go out and do something social. if you're absolutely terrified of skydiving, maybe don't go skydiving. Like, I'm never going to sit there and ask my wife, hey, you want to go skydiving? Because that's going to be a horrible day for all of us.
What about one of those like tubes where you like do the simulated thing? Would you do that?
I would do that.
Yeah, I'd do that.
I don't know if she would. I mean, she would be more inclined to do that than jumping out of an airplane.
What is it, like Fly Zone? I think that's the one that does that, right? Is that the one?
I'd do that.
There's one here.
I'd do that.
Yeah. But like I saw a video the other day where it was a plane that does skydiving, but they put a slip and slide in it.
That's awesome.
You actually run and slide down a slip and slide right out of the back of the plane.
Still not doing it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I can't see myself jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft.
I would do a slip and slide into the
but then
fly
again,
zone.
Yeah,
like you mentioned.
Yeah, but then again, I have friends that
Cedar Point
absolutely love skydiving, and they've actually gotten their certification to where they can go solo. And they but that's them. That's their thing. But no, I think we all have. There are certain things that we don't necessarily want to do because they don't make us comfortable, but there's something that we can still learn about it. And to the point that was initially brought up at the start of this, like, take a chance and actually commit to something. Like, if someone offers, like, hey, I'm hosting this party, if you know right now, if that person comes up to you and goes, hey, I'm hosting the party on this day, I'd love for you to be there. Like, okay, you know what? I don't have anything planned for that day. If you've got kids and all of a sudden your kids all of a sudden have a tournament that day, the person hosting, if you tell them like, hey, I was going to come, but my kid's got a soccer match or a basketball game or whatever, they've got to play or whatever. Understandable. Like that, the host is not cool. The host is not going to sit there and be like, oh, so your kid's more important than me? Yeah, obviously.
And if they have that opinion, maybe you shouldn't be hanging around with those kind of people. Just saying.
Well, yeah, but but
you see them every day.
But like, if a friend of yours, maybe you should come to the party, get away. If a friend of yours invites you to a get together, that means you are an important person to them. They want you there. The least you can do is come to that. Now, obviously, like I said, sometimes stuff happens and you can't make it there. But what's the harm in actually going? What's the harm in showing up? Doesn't mean you have to stay for the whole time. But if you show up to the event, that shows the person that invited you, like, you actually, that they care, that you care about spending time with that person and showing support for what they're doing. If you just don't show up and, like Steve was talking about earlier, oh, hey, missed you on Sunday, like, everything all right? I just sat at home all day and watched TV.
Okay.
Cool. So watching TV was...
No, I didn't say that. You said that. I said, I was like, all right, great.
I'm adding that.
Yeah, all right.
I'm adding that. Like, if someone's not there, yeah, I just watched TV all day. Cool. So, watching, 5 hours of TV shows that you recorded earlier in the week was more important than hanging out with me and some of our mutual friends, even, or having a beer, smoking cigars. Like, okay, now I see where I rank in,
And I differ in that. I'm like, that great, cool. Like, you stop inviting, you know what I mean? Like, you let me know when you want to do that.
Yeah.
That's my mentality is you invite, you try to include, you put it back on that person. It's like, hey, let me know when you want to do it. Would love to hang out. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, and to Ray's comment, Ray, I went out and celebrated my birthday. I know Spencer made a big deal of it because, that's sometimes how Spencer is. Spencer made a bigger deal out of me turning 40 than I did out of me turning 40. But I mean, it was one of those schedule things. And I'm like, okay, the places I'd really want to go to for us to hang out, they kind of close early on Sundays.
You didn't show up to Fido.
And I work. Yeah. On my, you invite, because
you wouldn't let us buy you a drink, but.
Well, because I had already had some drinks
I
at
know,
my birthday dinner, and I had to drive home. And
he did actually show up though, and
yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know. I'm giving you credit. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think Ray's giving me shit because I didn't sit there and go, "Hey, here's time for us to go to dinner." But it's also one of those things like, all right, you, me, Spencer going out to dinner, like, okay, like cool,
sounds awesome.
But
to me.
but it was also one of those scheduled.
I hate steaks.
Hey, anytime you and Kristen want to come over for steak and wine Sunday,
I know we're gonna do it.
You let me know.
She might be listening right now. We got to do it. We're going to do it.
Did she drink that bottle of wine we brought her yet?
Not sure.
Okay, it's only been a week.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
Just
But no, the point, like, if someone invites you to something, like, don't be afraid to say yes. I think a lot of people, if it's not necessarily something they planned or something that they really want to do, they're like, I don't know. It's like, well, what if you were hosting a party? You'd be there. I'm hosting a party. What's the difference? All right, she didn't drink the wine yet. That's fine. That was one I thought that you would really like. But no, I mean,
maybe we'll bring it over to Steak and Wine Sunday.
I already have a bottle of it.
All right, well then we'll drink yours. Perfect.
But no, I mean, at the start of the conversation, that was one of the things I thought about was, sometimes people
just keep going. Don't
every time I see
we gotta wrap it up.
Every time I see you look down and smirk, I'm like, "What's he laughing at?"
We gotta wrap it up here.
But no,
it all's got places to be.
All right, go ahead, Kanal. Your closing remarks.
No, I'm not.
I'm done. I'm done. Go. Otherwise, I'm just going to repeat myself.
Yeah, man. I don't really know where that kind of flip switched for me. It wasn't like one situation happened a long time ago. Actually, recently, a cousin of mine passed away very unexpectedly a few months ago, and it just brings you back. I had that moment where I was like, damn. And she lives in India, so it wasn't like we had a lot of times that we saw each other all the time. But, she was scheduled to visit actually this month. So her husband, who's, basically my brother-in-law, is here. And you just kind of had that realization, like, damn, man, like anything could happen at any moment. And that's the extreme side of it, right? Life and death. You never know how long you have. Take advantage. But I don't know, man. I don't know why people aren't enamored or they don't appreciate and see just kind of like how amazing the world can really be in a lot of things, in minor ways and in major ways. Like one of the minor things, I may have said it on here before, or said it before, was like Bluetooth. I don't know. I was like at the gym one day and I just had the thought in my head. I was like, there's not a single wire connected anywhere on my body. I've got Bluetooth headphones on and a wireless phone. And the moment my finger touches this glass screen, I can listen to any song by any artist instantly. Yeah. That's like mind blowing to me, right? People just don't seem to, I don't know, like take into consideration like how crazy it is that we have access to these things.
You said earlier,
I think
you take it for granted.
I think we take it for granted, man. And that's a little thing, right? But the taking for granted the opportunities that you'll have to come out to go to an event. And I think obviously we were all brought, you had to face that kind of situation during COVID. And then, right afterwards, you're like, oh, damn, we missed out on all these things. I don't want to have that feeling anymore. I'm going to try to take advantage and make the effort. And then you go right back into that kind of cycle of your regular daily thing. And all right, I'll kind of do it next time. And again, like everything, you're not going to get to go to every single thing or do every single thing that comes up. But you got to make a conscious effort to try, because there's going to be those times that it doesn't happen. But if you're trying, you're going to be able to take advantage and interact more times than you would have otherwise if you don't really make that effort. So whether it's something like, your favorite local cigar shops putting on these, events, and they're bringing people out, right? People are flying all over the country to go to these things, on a grand scale, and in a smaller scale, they're driving around, coming up a few hours away to hang out with a local group of people and just have a good time. But like, I don't know, just stop. Don't take so many things for granted. Try to take advantage of the things that you can when the opportunities arise. I think you'll find that you get a lot more joy, enjoyment, and value, right? That was a great way that you said it, Steve. It was like, if you don't put a value on your time, then you're really, really losing out on a lot, whatever that value is, right? It's not necessarily like, oh, I could be earning thousands of dollars every so often if I sit here and I have like the Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs kind of money. Okay, that's not most people, but we have value in all these other things. And that is the one thing, no matter who you are, where you're at, that is the most precious, and that is time. And again, it doesn't have to be, to the most extreme is life and death, obviously, right? But everything in between is an opportunity that you can try to take advantage of. And I don't know, man. I don't know why we so quickly started taking things for granted again. I don't know if that's like a Western, we're so spoiled because we have very comfortable lives kind of thing, or it's a generational thing, whatever it is. But I really feel like whatever it is surrounding it, we're just taking things for granted. Maybe a little too much more now than even we did at any point, right before COVID as well, to your point, like 2018, 2019. I don't know. I just feel like we take too many things for granted.
I think you just hit it right on the head there with the comfort level, right? There's a lot of sides of that. I'm not going to continue this on too long, but when you're comfortable, that can be a great thing, and it can also be I won't say a death sentence, but it can just be this
maybe detrimental. Yeah, it can be for sure.
You're too comfortable. When things are struggling, you continue on this life where it's like chip on your shoulder that things like life is against you and people are not giving you credit, all this stuff. There is again a balance that I feel as though is that you can strive for something, and when you achieve that, now you may be approaching that comfort level. Not necessarily you always have to be hungry, but there has to be at least a level of appreciation that you are sitting in that comfortable chair. You're sitting in this comfortable life. You're enjoying the moment. But I think there has to be a realization that this is a moment. You didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like there's not this level of you had a great experiences. I'm just going to, the whole thing with like working a job, like you don't just rest on your laurels in life. You have to keep going. Because if you're at that point where you're comfortable and everything is great, I've hit my peak. If you say that and you're 30 something, 40 something, 60 something, whatever age you are, if you're like, this is the life I wanted, you're going downhill after that. You don't necessarily need more, but if you have a sense of appreciation for what you're doing and you strive to keep that level of appreciation, that's where you keep those best practices. You don't take things for granted, like you were saying, and you keep going and enjoying life and knowing that it's not infinite.
It's very finite, extremely finite.
Yeah. You take a Wednesday night to sit down with two guys doing a podcast in a garage that hopefully several hundred, maybe 1,000 people, used to be 5,000 plus, but you sit down, you spend a couple hours, few hours, 3 hours.
Well, I'm happy to have helped reduce your numbers with the like 2 whole minutes of video game talk. I know that's like just a little way too much for people. God forbid.
Offensive, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
Yeah, that's all I'm about, man. I'm just all about walking around offending people, talking about video games, typical millennial type of stuff, right? No social awareness. We're just out here ruining everything for everybody. I got a reputation to live up. I can't go against the grain of my, generation of people here. I have to toe the line.
We appreciate that. I'm in my 40s now, so now I'm the older generation. I'm too old, so
clearly. Yeah.
I'm a middle-aged white male.
Those whippersnappers and
Watch
technology.
Out. Yeah. No, but I appreciate you can all being a part of this, and we can't wait to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Whoever's there, again, as Nate said, you know what? Just focus on the people that are there. We're all going to have a great time. Other people are gonna definitely after the fact go, man, I wish I was there. And so you know what? You had every chance and every opportunity. We'll try to keep presenting it to you. Don't let it slip by, man. We're gonna keep putting it out there for you.
Yeah. What are you doing with the Friday night of the Friday nights you have left?
There you go.
What are you doing with them? You don't have as many as you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers. Kunal, thank you so much. Everyone out there, thank you for joining us. And we'll be back next week. And continue the conversation. If you haven't got tickets, if you're local, I know we got some people still listening out there in Columbus, Ohio, Friday night, May 17th, $40. Great event coming up. Tinder Box at Easton at Fido Irish Pub and Restaurant. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.